Works District, obviously, and the flood control. And we will be having a
Town council
with the
meeting.
flood control district,
November 1st.
with the flood control district on November 3rd. Oh, it's here. And to talk about drainage, and I hope is that, well, I know that Peter Massey from Tree People, who is that's the steering chair for the WASC, Santa Clara River WASC, will be there, and hopefully Mary Johnson will be there too. She's our representative.
They both have RCP, so.
Oh, good, okay.
Thank you.
And we'll have at least 3, if not 4, town council members on that too. And there's other correspondence, but I just didn't get a chance to compile this.
Okay. All right, well, if you remember, we can put it back. Is Ms. Silsby here?
Yes. Hello.
Hello. Come on up and introduce yourself. And Ms. Silsby's from...
Maybe David can introduce yourself and I'll introduce myself next.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, first of all, it's a real pleasure to be here tonight. Myself and my colleague, Michelle Selby. My name is Dave Ford, and I'm a government relations manager for LA County. I cover the southern portion of the county and east and west of the other 4 supervisory districts. And I've been with Edison now for about 24 years. And have worked in this area before. I know during the PRTP days of the transmission lines coming through this area.
Thank you.
But we really are glad to be here tonight. I know for us to come out and, you know, it's been a year or so before we've had any types of public meetings that we can assemble, and we know how important your community is to the stakeholders, to the council, and Rochelle and I were having these discussions and we thought, well, let's make a visit so you get a face with a name, a voice. I think the last time, the last time I had a conversation with Jackie, she was in Tennessee, and you know, my accent, as you can tell, I'm not from California. So I was trying to give her all the places to go down here, like Pancake Pantry and Dollywood and Gatlinburg and all those places. But I trust you had a good visit.
Yes, I did. Thank you very much.
But we understand that, you know, the community has had a lot of activity with our grid work that we're doing here in the area, and you to meet us and just have a conversation and really understand some of your concerns and what we're doing to improve on the reliability here in this area. But more importantly, we wanted to get to know you and you get to know us.
I'm actually a new government relations manager with Edison. You know, started just earlier this summer, and so I cover the Akron community as well as Santa Clarita, the Antelope Valley, and San Fernando Valley areas for Southern California Edison. So feel free to correspond directly with me, and I can help, you know, to be a conduit of information with Edison. And then the other part that I feel like is really important, and the reason why I really like my job is because I get to be an advocate for the communities I serve. And you know, just a little bit about me. You know, I grew up, you know, with my parents were small business owners, and they had a, you know, 4-acre nursery. And I think, you know, for me, it was always like there's sometimes information could get lost, right? Because they were always busy working, and I always wanted to be able to understand things and be able to relay information. So if there's ever a need that arises, I promise I'll do my best to try to get that information and make sure that it's available. And then likewise, if you feel like there's any issues that you want to bring to me, I promise to always do my best to try to advocate for you within my company as well. Because I realize it is a big company, right? That being said, again, my name is Rochelle, and I'm just going to give you a quick little update about, you know, what's been going on in the Akron community and sort of what our progress has been. I think you'll see from the flyers that we handed out I think the company really realized that they had a lot of work to do in this community and in many areas really, right? That they really needed to focus on safely providing reliable service to all of our customers. So this year, the goal was to install approximately 350 miles in just the Agua Dulce and active communities alone of covered conductor to reduce wildfire mitigation on 9 circuits in these communities.
I'm just going to get Sheldon cover conductor.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, this is the cover conductor. I'll pass it
Oh, very
around.
cool.
You
Thank
guys
you.
can take a look at that. So that's what she's just expanding on, is the cover conductor that we installed. And, it's our really frontline defense for wildfire mitigation.
So if you think about in firefighters, the fire department talks about hardening the grid, that's exactly what we're talking about. That's one measure.
ACSR?
CSR?
ACSR. No, it's not, I was just, never mind.
That's how we cover the conductor, so it's not like bare wire. But really, again, like I said, our 2 main priorities were, addressing reliability and also protecting against the threats of extreme weather. So that's what we're really focused on, and that's why we were so focused on getting that 350 miles and 9 circuits, as well as a host of other things, because that's among one of the things that we do to mitigate. As many of you feel like you guys are all very well educated and versed on sort of this areas, but just as a reminder, the work that we do is vegetation management, aerial inspections, weather monitoring, grid hardening, and then the measure of last resort is PSPS. And we realize that not all of these measures are ideal at times, and quite frankly, some of them can be a bit frustrating. But I think that's why we're here today, is because we want to be a good community partner. We want to make sure that we're continuing to work with the community to understand, how we navigate some of these subtle nuances for these very, very big priorities, mitigating wildfire risk as well as increasing reliability. So, we're here to kind of work hand in hand because there is a lot of work going on. So, one of these things that I just kind of wanted to highlight for you is on the back of this sheet here. You'll see all the circuits in Agua Dulce and Acton. So the ones that I've highlighted in gray are the ones that are particularly in Acton. And so you'll see on the bootlegger circuit, we insulated approximately 27.6 miles of covered conductor, which is, quite a bit of work. And then we've also installed switching protocols. So that work is actually
Yeah, I was going to ask you,
completed.
can you define what that is?
What's that?
The switching protocols, like what do you mean?
Yeah, I'm actually really glad you asked. So if you think about a circuit, especially here in Acton, the circuits are very long. And so what we try to do is we segment it in sections, right? So if we add sectionalizing or if we install switching protocols, that allows us to sectionalize. So if we're, having to install new service or do maintenance work, or if there's extreme weather that's taking place and there's extreme wind and a combination of dry fuel out, then we can shut off only a portion or de-energize a portion of the circuit and mitigate the number of outages that residents would have to otherwise take. So
How is that going to tie into the notifications?
oh, that's another really good question. So right now, individuals, most of the time, individuals who are on a circuit, so the whole circuit would be notified if they're going to de-energize. But right now, we're working on many things, and it's, a constant evolution, a constant process of continuing to improve. So they're trying to sectionalize the notifications as well. So only the folks that would be impacted would be notified, because we realize that the notifications can also be burdensome too. But if you're ever in doubt, we still would notify the Acton Town Council if a circuit is being impacted at all. The Acton Town Council would be made aware, local governments would be made aware, and it's also live on our website. Any PSPS, de-energization, or any outage, we have it consolidated on a map on our website. So you can feel free to go to sce.com/PSPS or wildfire.
So under PSPS, you also put your de-energization that's not PSPS related?
Yeah, so there's also sce.com/outage, and that's kind of an aggregated outage map. And then you can kind of zoom in and see in the map what's going on.
So that would include PSPS.
It would include PSPS.
Because, so if your power's out,
How are you supposed to see that? If your power's out, how do you go to your computer?
Well,
Not always, you know.
Yeah, not always, yeah, if your battery requires, if your laptop needs to be plugged in, then yes, that would be. So in those cases, we would, recommend like a battery backup for your computer. If you have, or if your laptop has a battery, just try to keep your laptop charged.
well, I think, what you're not aware of, it, sometimes that when the power goes out, we have no internet. So even if, I'm on solar with Tesla backup, so I don't lose power anymore because of PSPS,
Okay.
but I still lose internet.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we talked with your folks some time ago, we pointed out the importance of Hauser Mountain. And if you need to put in more substantial infrastructure there to withstand more than 56 mile an hour gusts, then that provides internet for everybody.
Do you know what circuit Hauser Mountain?
It's on shovel.
It's on shovel.
And I think Louds is also connected to Shovel, so,
Okay.
anyway, so.
Let me add that as we are making these investments onto the circuits, as we get closer to completion, it also minimizes the threat of the PSPS activations. So as we're moving, toward the end date of these upgrades, you also will see a reduction or lapsing of PSPS activations. Now, but it's not guaranteed. If we get above, was it 56?
Yeah, it was around 56, 50, I think 56 or 58 miles per
Yeah,
hour.
58 miles. Then you're going to get into some, potential activations. But at that point, there's a lot of other wind activity going on when it gets up in 60 to 70 mile an hour winds.
So does that mean we're going to see, if the winds were the same as last year, and we had a lot of PSPS last year, are we still going to receive notices at the same level, or the notices tied to the amount of work that's been done, so now that bar has been raised? Like, in other words, identical years, we go last year, we get notices all the time, power's out a lot.
Yeah.
This year now, we complete the hardening, hopefully soon here, and are we still getting the same notices, or is it, no, it's been hardened and now the threshold is essentially been
So
raised?
yeah, the notifications are really tied to the, the proposal, like the potential de-energization. So if you look at the sheet that I gave you, and this column says expected PSPS reduction, that is based on previous year's de-energization.
Sure, and that's de-energization, but what about the notices? So like if...
Yeah, so the notices are tied to the.
Okay, so when you say this, that means a reduction in the amount of notices?
Yes, absolutely.
Because they were mine now.
Yes, and I think, that was very well noted, and I think they've done a very concerted job to change, to ensure that people aren't getting duplicate notifications. I mean, we're still gonna do the 78, 48, 24 hours to give people time to prepare for them, but, so
But
that's.
only if the winds are expected to exceed the new thresholds, which are much higher now because of the work you've done, right?
Yeah, it's all, I realize that it is complicated.
Well, no,
We understand the threshold.
Yeah, and it's also a number of factors, right? So complicating, so when there's cover conductor, yes, if you have cover conductor, then it can withstand wind speeds up to 58 miles per hour. But if extreme weather is worse this year, then we're looking at potentially, we're still looking at it under consideration. But wind is not I just want to remind you that wind is not the only factor you take into consideration, right? It's like the fuel moisture, it's the weather sensors, it's the dust. So there's a number of factors that go into it, but yes, generally speaking.
So I have a question. Bootlegger, 100% completed cover conductor, 100% chance of no PSPS. So what is the threshold for bootlegger to be deactivated? Is it 56 miles an hour, or is it the 90 miles an hour that the engineering on the telephone poles are, that the county has listed for your engineering?
Or if you don't know, if you can get back to us.
So you're asking if bootlegger would be 90 miles per hour?
Well, I'm asking, now that bootlegger is 100% completed with cover conductor,
Yeah.
is it going to be deactivated at 56 miles an hour, or is there a higher threshold?
Yeah, it says expected.
But
Yes, and all the cover conductor are generally the same. That's what the cover conductor is rated at, so that wouldn't matter
No, but I mean, here you're saying expected PSPS reduction 100%, which means to me,
You will have.
you'll never have a PSPS.
Well, we can't say never because the wind direction.
So I guess what everybody in this community wants to know is, what is the threshold for fully updated covered conductor wiring? So what do we have to expect now that you've done this work and you've completed the bootlegger circuit and a couple others here?
So it would be the same, it would be.
56 miles an hour.
Yeah, 56 miles an hour, that's like the threshold. But like I said, it's
And you
not.
do realize that this community sees 56-mile-an-hour gusts a lot. And according to the engineering, when you guys get permits for poles and things, it has a 90-mile-an-hour threshold. So,
That's General Order 90.
and Jackie can tell you more about that because she's researched it extensively. So our question is why don't we get to the 90 miles an hour that the system is supposed to be designed for by code, and we're still at 56 miles an hour even though we've done all this work? Because if this is truly what we're going to have, we're still going to see PSPSs a lot.
So if we have the same weather as we did last year, it's going to be 100% mitigated. Does that make sense?
Well, we don't know
So
what that
then-
means because you've never told us what the criteria was for shutting things on and off.
If the weather stays the same as last year, you won't have any shut off. You won't have any data.
The same as last year, that's so broad.
It's very broad, right? So I guess what I'm asking is, what's the actual criteria that was used? Because we've asked over and over, and I don't think we've ever received an answer.
I think, for example, on the shovel circuit, it was being de-energized. I don't remember who was or somebody with the shovel. When the wind speed was suspected to get to 25 miles an hour sustained, if the FBI was 12. Now, SDG&E and SCE use the same FBI program, but SDG&E goes to FBI 14 before they de-energize people. So Edison uses 12, and then they were cutting the power on the shovel circuit at wind speeds that are like everyday wind speeds here. Exactly. And so I think we understand now the threshold will be perhaps as high as 56, and we've had a lot of discussions with the PUC on this because their General Order 95 says build to withstand the General Order 95 requirement or for local conditions. So in particular on areas like Hauser Mountain that is so critical for communication for people to get evacuation orders from the fire department, in particular, those infrastructures should be built to withstand local conditions and not just General Order 95. And the Commission, in their decisions issued on this in 2009 and 12 and even beyond, have never walked away from the local conditions requirement of GO 95. So at least in some places where the infrastructure is so critical, so everybody knows during the tick fire, a lot of people did not get evacuation orders because all the communication platforms were down. Jeremiah's neighbor went down to rescue their grandparents in Sand Canyon, knocked on the door at 2 a.m. The fire was literally a few blocks away. It was moving so fast the fire department couldn't get to them. And they pulled their grandparents out. I mean, at 2 in the morning in the pitch black because their internet was down, they had no cell phone service, they had even if they had battery backup on their computers. And landlines went out too. I keep an AT&T landline, costing me a lot of money for emergency, and that went out too. So it's really.
I'm with you. I have a landline.
Yeah.
Just
So
for that reason.
yeah, but
I didn't point that down because if you're talking about wind speeds, you get it. What was that canyon again? You said
it's Hauser Mountain,
Hazard
and it's
Mountain.
up Shannon Valley. You guys call it. It's near your Lateau Mountain circuit. It's probably a mile or so away. Now, unfortunately, and I want to say I appreciate it, you have now put wind speed measurements in Shannon Valley, which is great. So they increased the number of monitoring.
Is better.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate that.
So what we'd like to do is get back with y'all and be
On your
more
So-
pinpoint.
Okay.
Jackie, the infrastructure is supposed to be withstand 90 miles an hour. That is correct, right? That's the general order for the PUC.
If you read the PUC decision, it says, yes, it's supposed to withstand 95 miles an hour. But the PUC then said, well,
Local conditions.
we're going to pretend it's 56 miles an hour, and that's the threshold we're setting. So the PUC has told the utilities, You gotta comply with GO 95. GO 95 requires 96. Well, we're gonna let you slide at 56, 58, whatever it is. So,
So we,
I won't, that's not your fault. That's the PUC's
Right.
fault for not
So-
implementing their own standards, but that's.
in terms of PSPSs, will never be PSPS free.
But can I just I'm just gonna go back really quick and we can kind of come back to these questions, but I just want you to understand that these are good signs, okay? This is an improvement.
We
This
appreciate
is
that.
a very big investment in the infrastructure. I'm sure you've all seen it because, I mean, it's
You know,
been
it's
everywhere.
our investment. So, you know,
Pay for it.
we pay, you
No,
know,
Yeah.
I mean, we're not arguing that fact. Yes, it's a good thing. We're glad we have cover conductor. We're glad everything is safer. But we still have a level of service that is less than we had 25 years ago.
Or 3 years
well,
ago.
the
Or 3
weather,
years ago.
Yeah, 3
the
years
environment
ago.
has changed a little bit too, so, the weather extreme, we are facing different weather conditions than we
Yeah,
did
I-
several years ago. So I'm not gonna, I mean,
Yeah.
The same around here as they always been.
Well, and even if that's the case, I think a lot of the questions we've had last several years is that we should be underground and everything. If this doesn't get us to where we're having the same level of service as somebody else, what's gonna get us there? If that's what it is, I mean,
Well, we've never had shut-offs like this,
yeah.
ever, in the 30 years I've been here.
Since 1887.
well, hopefully this year, I mean, knock on wood, so far, this year's, fire season has been an improvement and hopefully it continues to do so. What we'll do is we'll take the 30 mile, the 350 miles of cover conductor that are all either completed or in the very final stages of completion. We've added the segmentation so that we can mitigate outages as well. We've increased, weather monitoring stations. We've done a lot of work to hopefully shrink those numbers down and to mitigate the number of outages.
So is the
So hopefully
segmentation, I'm
this
sorry, I have a
year-
question. Is the segmentation remote or does somebody have to come out and do it?
I
Is it something
believe-
that's done from the office or?
Yeah, I believe it's a remote. Is the switching protocols, is that automated?
Yeah, the switching protocols is automated. That is, when we do a PSPS activation, say one section of the circuit is off, and, while it's off during the event, once it is still the same procedure to re-energize the circuit, has to have an inspection to make sure that there's no damage to the circuit before we re-energize. So we'll have a troubleman to go out there and actually review the circuit, look at the circuit, cross arms, conductor, make sure no trees are falling on our infrastructure, and then get it back up. So that sometimes takes a while because of terrain and geographical areas, but we try to do it as quickly as we can.
Well, we appreciate all the upgrade, and we understand that probably some communities weren't particularly happy with Edison because they didn't go first. We appear to have come first, which we are very
Completed first.
Huh?
That's good.
Yeah.
Near
Very
completion first, which is fantastic.
Yeah, very much so. And I'm very excited about the reduction in PSPS. But there is another issue that we need to talk to you about. 2 years ago, when we were still able to meet before COVID hit, we had several meetings with Liz Sealer, who was, I think, your predecessor.
Yes.
And several meetings, several of those meetings involved staff from Edison, including folks from your helicopter division and contractor reps and things. And you guys did a lot of inspection in 2018 and 2019, and this community was just overwhelmed by helicopter operations, literally flying along Crown Valley in places where cars could have gone. A lot of helicopter inspections done in areas that didn't need to have inspection via helicopter. When we reviewed the Edison plans, the use of helicopters was supposed to be very selective and not in areas that were accessible by the road. And Edison did a great job and listened to us. And then the helicopter operations stopped, and you guys started using drones, which was great. And because they were localized, and we have a lot of We have a lot of equestrian usage here, we have a lot of ag uses. Horses don't do well when helicopters suddenly buzz them literally 50 feet off the deck. And if somebody's riding or training or, we also have a lot of animal sanctuaries here. A lot of people work with big cats, I mean lions, tigers, and they're very dangerous. And when sometimes in these canyons, when the helicopter comes up and over, it's like just an overwhelming instant response, and it freaks animals out. So
Yeah.
we have reasons for why we don't want helicopters.
My son rides horses, and I can imagine the Friday.
Yeah, well, 2 years ago, in 2018, it was hellacious. I mean, it would go on for, apparently, I didn't know this because I'm not on social media, but there was a new, it was called an Edison helicopter drinking game. And people had to like take a shot whenever a helicopter flew over, and it was like,
Alcohol sales all-time high in acting.
you don't know about that part. I don't know about that. But you guys reduced it, and then the helicopters were reduced, and it was great. And then we had
Has
this,
that gone up, or?
I'm sorry? Well, no, then we had the situation of Bear Trap Canyon.
Just in the last 2 weeks.
And I know we've had emails about it, but we also were, our community was horrendously affected by TRTP construction. 43,000 helicopter sorties. And Edison put helicopter landing pads in the EIR. The commission approved the EIR based on the statement and the map that there would be no helicopter pads outside the forest. And all the helicopter pads would be on the forest lands. And then the first thing Edison did was put 2 helicopter pads right there at Vincent and fly up the Angeles Forest Highway corridor every day for months. We had Vietnam vets whose wives were calling us. Their husbands were in just like curled up in a ball, couldn't even get to them. It was so horrendous. And so our community is done with Edison helicopters. And so when we learned that there was a thing graded on a residential pad in a residential neighborhood, and then it was to be used for helicopters, again, we were concerned. We know that they're dangerous. The PUC has records of that, the danger posed by helicopter use, especially when things like hot fueling and hovering are done in a canyon where wind gusts are sudden. I mean, your own data shows it. And, helicopters can flip it. The one in Bouquet flipped it to, I think it was like a 28 mile an hour wind gust. So, when we learned that there were helicopters are being deployed out of a residential neighborhood and a residential property, when we knew Edison had a helicopter pad that they had just recently revegetated for the tri-tip, 2 miles away, nowhere near homes, we were, and another one up in Mill Valley, up in Mill Creek, Mill Creek Summit, that's still there, that could have been used and not flying into and out of a residential neighborhood. That's a huge problem. And so I don't know how to work with Edison on this helicopter issue. It seems like once we make inroads and on the tri-tip situation, that got addressed. The PUC we filed a complaint. PUC came in, said you have to do certain things, and Edison did them, so that was good. But then we get that experience again, and then we work it out like we did 2 years ago, and we got the commitment from Edison, and it's on video, that we won't deploy helicopters in your community without talking to you first and letting you know. And then all of a sudden, what happened 2 weeks ago was just beyond, anything we expected. So I don't know what to do about that.
They were taking off every 10 minutes. We actually went out and timed them. They were landing for 2 minutes, flying for 10, coming back. They were refueling.
Hot fuel, the thing was running, yeah.
Yes, in a residential neighborhood with a new helipad.
Yeah, I don't think anything new was built, just so you know, and there was nothing graded. It was just, it happened to be a good site, and that the reason why I think the helicopter team really wanted to use that site was because it was the closest proximity, and that it was the shortest flight, that it wouldn't go over homes, and they felt it was the safest opportunity for them to get out into this really good area. But I do know that we have our meeting coming up on the 9th, and I would
That's
really
incorrect.
like to
That's
have the
incorrect.
opportunity to kind of address this issue in detail. And I think, we're scheduling that meeting, and so hopefully we can discuss those. And I do hear and understand those concerns, and I appreciate Jackie providing us with that history. And I do think that, moving forward, we definitely, certainly I'm new, but I definitely hear what you're saying in terms of the history and this community and the sensitivities that are unique to this community, and we'll definitely, like I said,
But the pad was graded, Michelle. I walked it.
And just so you know, because
really,
what
I
it's,
was told that it wasn't great.
Bear Trap
It
Canyon,
was.
the Bear Trap Canyon, we people, they took pictures. Bear Trap Canyon neighborhood,
It was
the
graded.
Aliso, and then Angeles Forest Highway. So the helicopters are flying from the Bear Trap neighborhood east. The pad that we wanted you guys to use was east of there, not near any homes. It was actually shorter and more convenient to use the pad outside the neighborhood than where they used it. So somebody's giving you incorrect information.
Mhm.
They told you that it
Yep.
was not making people fly over homes.
It
and
was
the
graded.
shortest, because it was actually longer than the pad that we were hoping you would use.
It was within 800 feet of a house. They had a water truck there to make sure that there wasn't any fire going to happen.
We have photos and video.
I witnessed it. I spent a few hours there, 3 days.
And and I know we're going to talk about it tonight, but let me just say this, we've been counting on Edison's promise that they wouldn't deploy helicopters without this first. So that we could have this kind of discussion and say, hey, put it over here, so you don't endanger the lives. It's not noise. Everybody thinks it's noise. It's not noise. We're in a very high fire hazard area. And Edison already tipped the helicopter and killed a person at Cayman, which is, you were right, in 2008 on the tri-tip construction. So we know it's not good to fly people out of people's homes if it can be avoided. So
Yeah, I definitely think, it definitely warrants having a good in-depth discussion, and I definitely understand your concerns, and I will just say that just from joining, safety is, I know it sounds kind of redundant to say, but safety really is a huge priority. It's how we start our day, it's how we start every meeting, every discussion. So I think, when we talk about any safety concerns, it will be, raised, and it will be an important discussion that we'll have, and we'll determine, we'll look at all the different factors that go into deployment of helicopters and the use of helicopters that, unfortunately, in this environment is, part of the need to maintain our operations, and that was actually part of the bootlegger circuit, and we just completed it, so that work at that temporary landing area is completed. But I do think, yes, definitely, we always want to have those discussions about safety and make sure that, we're doing everything to the best of our ability. So, I think we absolutely want to have that discussion, and we absolutely want to ensure that everybody feels like the work that we're doing is safe. Because, obviously that was the whole purpose of the work, right? Is wildfire mitigation, enhancing safety in this community.
Yeah,
And
but
so we would,
it wasn't done, but it could have been done much more safely and without being in
Plus,
somebody's
there
front
was-
yard.
so
and
we'll
backyard.
definitely, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
that's a reason why I think it's important for us to kind of have like that, wrap up analysis, and then we can definitely, kind of go through all of those details. Because there's many factors that go into these, and it's hard to address things in just sort of a blanket, and not that you are, but I'm saying there's a lot of things that we can probably.
But Rochelle, the other problem was there was no communication to the neighbors. The only person that knew about it was the man that owned the property where the helipad was put. So there was other people that were within, I'm going to say 1,000 feet.
Yeah, I understand the supervisor did
tell them that-
walk the neighboring residents. So, I think that's another thing that we could discuss too is, notifications and communication. Like I said, I think we're always trying to do our best, and I think we always aim to do that. And I think that, moving forward, we'll try to continually improve, right? Just like all the work we all do every day, everyone, we try to do our best. And so I'm sure, hearing your feedback, we'll try to, be better.
Even if we had known about it, we could have alerted the neighbors to some degree. So the first thing they knew about was when a helicopter landed across the driveway from them.
Yeah. There was no reason for them to operate out of that pass. I mean, to save 2 minutes on a trip is not, you can't justify that against the risks to the neighborhood. It's just not right. And maybe in the future talks, we can figure out how Edison will promise us not to operate helicopters out of residential neighborhoods, because there are plenty of helipads around.
Yeah.
And I realize helicopters $3,000-4,000 an hour, but that's not our problem. And we shouldn't be put at risk to make a trip 9 minutes instead of 10 minutes, because that's what that was all about.
Well, the irony
Especially
though
at
is
these
the pad
rates.
we wanted to use, it was closer, so it would have been a
So it might
shorter.
have been in the forest, and maybe they didn't have.
No, it's right there, it's right there.
Yeah, right there by the train station?
It's about 2 miles east of Bear Track. On Aliso, so it's fully
No, they
accessible.
revegetated that, they can't use that one.
Sure they can.
Well, it's full, I mean, it's vegetated, it is
Yeah,
not
but then they
flat.
can just revegetate it again. That's what, they've done it twice already so
Right,
far.
okay,
So
but that
it's
wasn't,
like-
what I'm saying is they couldn't use that one on the day that.
But they were fueling right there too, John.
Oh, I know, that's just not acceptable, you know.
Too many houses within a
Yes.
very short.
In the forest.
And that's part of our reason for being here, because y'all know your
I
community.
appreciate that.
Y'all know your community, you live here.
Yes.
And the more we're able to engage with y'all and communicate with y'all, it will help us to advocate and to get, hey, if you're going to be doing some work, we want to make sure the town council and people, stakeholders, are aware of this activity in advance. Now, sometimes surprises happen. I mean, we all have kids, and we can tell them and tell them and tell them, and every once in a while there's a surprise that happens. But we're going to really try to work with y'all. Rochelle is, she is dedicated and committed to this community and the surrounding area. So I really feel great about this opportunity to meet with y'all. As, I want to acknowledge Chuck, who's here from Supervisor Barber's office. We have regular ingoing communication with him and the other staff members of the district offices. So our sincerity and commitment is not just talking, but engaging and acting.
We appreciate
Yeah,
that.
no, we're really happy you guys.
And we all are aware that our PSPS situation has improved dramatically.
Yeah.
When you guys started it, and we are very thankful for that. So, I think, the ongoing use of helicopters is an issue for us. And then I just kind of feel like, me personally, would like to know what level of functionality do we have now in terms of potential power. 56 miles an hour. So if we don't see that 56 miles an hour, we're good for the season. So I guess what we're still going to have occasional PSPSs regardless of what equipment they put in.
Potentially, it sounds.
Potentially, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, that's
So
nice.
but we know, And the other question I had was, if you're on one of these, when you segment a power line, and let's say you're back here, I don't know if I can see this, I'm just at the end of this line, doesn't matter what circuit it is, and you have extreme weather here, everybody down this whole line is going to be disconnected, correct?
Well, that's the beauty of having the segmentation, is that if there's,
if you're at the end of the line and the interruptions at the beginning,
They have to be cut, they have to be cut. Segmentation doesn't help unless you hook them up to a different circuit, so they can be served.
right?
and that's what they're trying to do here.
Oh,
So that's a difference.
That's-
They're
so we're gonna
doing
have
that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That would make this community
Yeah.
handsprings. 'cause
Yeah,
I
because
remember
when I think of like Shannon Valley, if that goes out, you have everything sound.
Everything,
As
yeah.
opposed
Some of
to,
the circuits are being backfed by
others.
others.
Okay, well, see, I don't think anyone's ever told us
No,
that.
that's
So,
the first
for
time.
we
instance,
asked,
like
so-
Sand Canyon was impacted this past year, right? But it didn't impact any residents because it was segmented. It was only section 5 of Sand Canyon.
those businesses.
So it was commercial customers that had generation. So that's what we're trying to explain. And if everything remains the same as it did last year, on like some of the circuits where there's 100% reduction, that means there will not be any
It's
PS.
good news.
Well, if you're hooking up separate service, that's, actually, we asked for that and we were told no.
I mean, I don't know if every single circuit
No,
is
I know, but we were
paired.
told no. So for example, when the first PSPS rounds, 2019 to 2020, our school district lost 10 days of school. That's huge. And it was because it's on the shovel circuit.
Yeah.
And the shovel circuit's right near the pick circuit, right there. It was like a really quick connection. And like, can you just keep the school energized if you're gonna cut the power on a shovel? And it's on video. And they said, no, you'll have to pay to do that. And your school district has to pay. I'm like, our school district can barely pay for itself, let alone that. And it was just so close. And then in 2020, during COVID, another 10 days of schooling was lost because that circuit was out again. So anyway, if you are doing new service connections, that's never been communicated to us. So
We can follow up on that and just make sure that that's accurate. And then, you know, we can also provide you with maybe a little bit of a deeper dive on the
That's what I'm
circuits.
gonna ask. That'd be
On
great.
the
Just so we
circuits
can
that
have.
run through active. So those are the ones that are the four here, but mostly it's bootlegger, pig, and shovel that are your.
That's us.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
us.
So, but yeah, we can do a deeper dive and see like exactly what those switching protocols mean to the community. But that really is the intention, right?
Yeah.
that's great.
And when we do the segmentizing of the circuit, the notifications will go out to those customers only that would be impacted. And what happens a lot, and I live real close to the Chatsworth community, and that's served by the energy service.
Oh yes, they get cut even more than
Yeah.
us.
So I'm on their Facebook page, and so what happened a couple of weeks ago is that we had an outage on the energy circuit, but on the Facebook page, people were asking questions. You know about the outage that's coming up, so it went all downstream of where the circuit was actually going to be out and de-energized. So everybody thought they were going to have an outage, and only those that were affected, because the people who didn't get notifications weren't going to be affected. So that's how that kind of went, and I had to get on the Facebook page to, control
Straighten it
the
out.
That caused the whole issue.
yeah.
Things tend to get out of hand quickly on Facebook.
Well, and I think too, though it speaks to.
No,
issues-
meta. It's
yeah,
meta.
It's meta. I think it speaks to, though, too, the issues we've had with notifications in the past. So I think it became an issue probably out of the fact that the notifications
People
were
were
very
just
good. And so
getting
people,
notified.
yes,
Yeah.
so they start to just go,
Yeah.
the information from my neighbors is more reliable than when I'm getting medicine. And so thus, if they tell me it's going to be out, I'm going to trust it's out.
Well, it is probably a good reminder, though, that, it is summer season, so it's a good reminder for everyone to update their notification preferences on SE.com, and that way you know whether or not you are being impacted, rather than, kind of hearing from the community, oh, that circuit's being impacted, right? And so you can actually see, so when you go on the website, SE.com/PSPS, you can see the circuits that are, currently under consideration for de-energization. And if you look, the one thing you want to be careful is look at the segment too, because that's something that's new, right? And so it's just another thing to be aware of.
Thank you
And
very
all
much.
I don't know, Jackie, if you saw the website, but it has been updated so that all the information, so on one page you'll see the map, you'll see the circuits and the segments that are under consideration, you'll see community resources that are available, potential, whatever types of resources for the community are available will all be on one page.
That's great.
So it'll be easier to hopefully.
That's really good. Thank you.
All right, and then if not, hopefully communications are still working, you can reach out to me when in doubt as well.
Okay, all right,
Thank you. Appreciate you guys coming out.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Next up, Water District 37.
John, the agendas are right there if you want to grab one on the front.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we're going to do almost the exact same presentation. I think everybody's just sick of COVID, but I want to ask one favor, okay? This is Terry, this is Sammy, and I'm Dave. We're all at this recording. We're going to hold our breath for a second so that you can see what we actually look like. Okay? of District 40 right now. We've got a big emergency going on down the Dominguez Channel. You might have heard about it on the news. Our regular district head, Russ Bryden, has been called to be the incident commander for that incident.
Wait,
So-
is the Waterworks District is involved in that? I
So
thought that
because
was-
we are part of Public Works, we are part of Public Works, they leverage all resources. And because Waterworks has got water quality experience and connections to the other water communities.
Take conversations outside.
No one better.
Can't hear.
But we want, I mean, Dave spoke pretty much exactly what I wanted to say, right? We want to make sure that we have open lines of communication with all of the communities that we serve. And you're right, we're all down below. Every time we drive up here, that is a cost to the district, so we try to minimize our unnecessary travel times. But at the
We're
same
okay with you
time,
spending that money. At least come visit.
Well, it's not your money.
he's okay, all right? He's good for the radio.
Wait a minute, he's not in your district.
No, but we try to be as efficient with our time as possible. But we do want to open up that line of communication. We don't have, the Board of Supervisors is the Board of Directors for the Waterworks District. To ask everybody to come and have that open conversation in front of the Board of Supervisors would be a little much. Chuck probably doesn't want us to do that.
No, I know, I call them train wrecks whenever
But we wanna
conversations are held in front of the Board of Supervisors.
We want to have this ongoing line of communication. That's why I brought Terry. Terry's our a recent hire in the last year, is overseeing all of our public outreach and interaction with the community. And she's been charged this year with finding new creative ways to engage in our community. I think COVID and just the reality of the virtual and the social media world have highlighted there's a need to do this better. We want to have interactions with customers. We don't want the only time that you see us is when there's a problem. And so we don't have any particular agenda that we brought tonight. Same thing as Dave. We just want to make sure that we have an open line of communication with you guys, faces with names, and open the conversation. The one thing that we did hear about in the last couple of weeks were two specific questions related to ag use, increased ag use in the district, and then concerns about serving water.
Thank you.
Thank you.
He's a good guy, by the way.
Okay, good.
Right, real good guy. Dave and I go with him. And then the second issue was the whole concept of serving water outside the district and making sure that.
That's in the basin.
Say that again? Outside the basin, yes. So Waterworks District 37 has a service area that everybody who is a customer of the district is part of it. We are not allowed to serve water outside of that district boundary. The only way that we can do that is if a developer comes in, annexes into the district, and pays all their fair share for the infrastructure and whatever is needed to serve them. We've had a lot of communication with the areas that are surrounding the active community for years, and have been very clear. If you want to annex in, this is what it's going to cost, and that cost has to be borne by the people who come in. Do not put that cost on the existing customers of the district. That's the first thing. Second thing about the ag use, I've heard rumors that the main concern was regarding illegal marijuana use.
Oh, yeah.
Well, not use. Well, there's a couple, actually, there's a couple of things with the ag use. And now, based on the board action of about 6 weeks ago, our concerns are even more elevated.
Okay.
And it's not illegal marijuana grows. If the board goes forward with what the two board members were talking about when they pulled the old cannabis report off the shelf and dusted it off and put it in place, there won't be illegal, it'll be legal. And the concern is that a lot of water comes from AMEC, some water comes from the river. Under our understanding of state law, you can't transfer water from one basin to another basin without going through an entire process. So Acton water in Acton's basin needs to stay in Acton unless something, a big lift happens with the state. So, which we obviously would want to be part of. So the concern is not that District 37 is expanding beyond Acton. District 37 can go from here to San Clemente. It's fine. You guys will do what you need to do. But the water that serves those customers can't come from our river. So what we've asked for in the past is when you talk to other entities connecting who are not in the Acton Basin or in our drainage area, if you will, that they be served with AVEC water. And when last we met with the District 37 folks, it was literally in January of 2020, before COVID hit, but we had a really great meeting. Carrie was there, a few other people. And we were told that Waterworks District 37 was coming up with a new rate structure to address that type of thing. People who need to get served by AVEC versus not AVEC. And they had not considered the issue of us not wanting Acton water from Acton Basin going outside the Acton Basin, either that way or that way, right? Or that way, anyway. And that they thought it would be possible to, we know, for example, the Casulas development, some people call it Prater development, they've been annexed in, and they are not in, their drainage is down towards Abugosa, that they would be served by District 37, but with AVEC water. In other words, you wouldn't extract water out of our river to serve them, because we already have well yield problems here, and you extract more water from, you know, the fissures of our river, that can and will affect surrounding areas, even perch water and so on and so forth. So that's why we're very, you know, we try to be very careful, not discourage anything Waterworks District 37 does, other than make sure that it doesn't result in water from our basin being transferred out of this basin. And that was, the gentleman, was it, I don't remember, Troy was there, Kelly, you were there. I don't have my notes from that meeting, but said that they thought they could come up with a fee schedule that would, and acquire the property, the water from AVEC to support the out-of-basin connections that we know are coming, right? So that's one thing that we really wanted to talk with you about, if that still is going to happen, if that rate structure is going to come up. And I guess we wanted the assurance that Acton Basin water won't leave Acton Basin. Does that make sense?
It does. The key here is that the wells that are serving Acton right now do not make up the supply that is even here for the existing customers.
Right.
You've heard talk about us in discussions with Acton Water Company, the truck haulers. They've got an extra well on their property that we have been in discussions with, if there's something that can be done to utilize that existing infrastructure that isn't being fully utilized right now. Not to increase the groundwater production capacity of the district, but just to bring it back to where it used to be.
But you've got 1,000 acre-feet is enough to serve 9,000 people at 100 gallons a day. And that's more people than Acton even has. So when we saw the 1,000 acre-foot as being the baseline that you guys, or the maximum you would take out, that's still an enormous amount of water. That plus over the last 15 years, the folks at Thousand Trails, they're now extracting up to 1 million gallons a day. And that's not even factored into anybody's calculation. So that could be another reason why a lot of our wells are drying up.
So that may be one thing we need to come back and do a presentation on, is to help you see how much the district is using, how much is the existing customers the district are using, how much that represents for an individual customer, and then how much of that supply or how much of that demand we can meet with groundwater wells. Because I think there's a bit of a disconnect on the expectations of what those wells do and the amount of customers that they serve and what's actually occurring out there. And so it's probably worth a discussion to show you some of the charts on that data, so that we can talk through, you know, these concepts. And I can't commit you to a special rate structure, but it opens up the conversation of, okay, how do we do this?
That would be great.
Yeah,
That's
that's all we're looking for.
that's the path we're on, and then COVID hit. So
we're your district. Like, we're not trying to come up here and tell you how to run down.
But we don't have pitchforks.
We didn't bring this stuff. It depends on the next
I don't even know which pitchfork.
I don't know.
And regarding the ag uses, what we had asked for at that meeting, because this came up then too, was when a source comes online that, for ag purposes, that wants to use District 37 water, that's a problem for all of us, because, you know, our water's treated through Palmdale. It's not cheap, you know, a lot of it is the water you don't pull out of here. and to use potable water for ag resources is really troubling for us. And if it would result again in more water being extracted out of our river, that's a problem as well. And if the board goes forward with the idea of legalizing cannabis grows on industrially zoned property, our community has more industrially zoned property than all of unincorporated District 3. So we know and we have a waterworks districts. We have the two key things that cannabis growers are going to want. And so far, we have a board of supervisors and a CEO's office that's unwilling to recognize the importance of buffers around residential. It's all of our industrial properties are surrounded by homes.
Well, and to give you some color to that, I mean, Acton is one of the few places probably in the state that heavily voted against legalizing recreational cannabis. So our community is stated unequivocally, it's not something that they want to invest in, let alone potentially screw themselves on water.
Exactly. So, again, not to discourage business, and if the board of supervisors wants to legalize cannabis grows, we know it's going to come. But what we want is to not have our basin drained to accommodate those uses. That is not okay. And we will go wherever we have to go and do whatever we have to do to make that protect our river. It's hard enough that we have a campground here that uses a lot of water and has a lot of sewer connections that are not necessarily outside of the floodplain and could be a source of the nitrates that are a problem for you guys. So, anyway.
Heard, and that's something we'll work closely with the supervisor's office on. That's one of the benefits of us being under the board.
That's
I
great.
also wanted to talk and introduce Terry. What Terry's trying to do is make sure that we aren't just always having to come out to meetings every 2 weeks. And so she's looking for different opportunities for outreach, and I just want to put you on the spot.
That's fine.
Welcome after.
Thank you. And actually, I am very interested in taking a cruise through the community. So
We'll give you a tour.
give me a tour.
Spend a day touring Acton.
So I want to know what,
Absolutely.
right, so I know what the community is about, how it looks. Because down here in LA, the basic things are smaller, yards are smaller. I know it's much larger out here. So I'm actually interested in taking that tour.
We
So
love
that I
that.
can understand when I'm talking to you and I can understand a little bit
Let me
better.
tell you, thank you for that.
Yes.
Because often we get people that aren't necessarily interested in what's going on in here and kind
This
of.
is what's best for you.
So the fact that you're really interested, it gets me so excited. So
Oh, no, I'm totally committed to this. You know,
Okay,
I took on this job with a purpose and I'm going to fulfill that.
I'm going to deal with that.
And absolutely, and I'm more hands-on, you know. So whether it's coming out to the meeting or talking to one or two of you,
Yeah.
staying in contact if something new develops with us, outreach-wise and other business with LA County Waterworks, then I want to be able to share that. And also what we're doing too is like we have a newsletter that's coming out, so that we're putting out. So we'll have our information in there too, like projects and programs that are going on so that you'll know what is happening with us. So, and let me see, and our website too, we're kind of cleaning up our website. I don't know if you've visited the website or anything, but we're kind of cleaning that up and making it more simplified for you to be able to get to exactly what we need to get to on the website. It's out there.
It would be great though if it's really like kind of important to also put it on your website, because there are people like me who have eschewed the social platforms for all kinds of reasons. So that would be, if it's like really critical, because we're having that problem, like the CEO's office, they post stuff about sustainability plan input, what's going on, and they put it on Twitter. So if you're not on Twitter, you don't know.
Yeah, right.
So we've asked them to put it on their website as well, not asking them not to use Twitter, but it's really important to make it,
Right.
you know.
Absolutely.
A lot of people have removed themselves from those platforms, or some platforms.
Right, okay.
So,
That, I agree to that. So yeah, we'll definitely, I'll make sure that anything that is coming out, that we add it to our website so that you can see it. On there.
but we're excited about this. And I want to tell you, I want to thank you guys. I don't know what you've done, but over the last 8 months, the water tastes so good. I don't even buy sparklets anymore. I'm a District 37 customer. Most people here are not. Nobody else is, but
I'm going over to Jackie's house.
It tastes like the water.
I think there's
You know, if I don't have an answer, I will get an answer for you. I'll be that person.
Do you have business cards?
Absolutely.
So is it to have follow-up discussions, or did you want to talk to the board first, or how would you, to talk about some of these issues about?
Yeah, we will know it, or we've got things we'll follow up on, Chuck, and we'll be back.
I have one ag operation that we know about for sure. It's up on Calm Garden, is it? With the 10,000 square foot commercial?
Cedar Croft.
They're putting in a 10,000 square foot commercial building. They've told regional planning it's for mushroom growth. And, you know,
I'm no scientist,
It's
but I
just-
think it takes a lot of water to grow mushrooms.
well, it's also just very troubling. Potable water shouldn't be used for ag operations. And we were told you guys had that kind of a policy. If they want to do ag work, they have to get a special kind of permit or connector or something. I don't know if that, if that's the case, but we don't have a way to do purple pipes up here, obviously. So, if this sort of thing is going to take off, it's not just cannabis, big mushroom grow up. I mean, 10,000 square foot building, that's a big building, so, and tall too, so.
When you hear about these things, the more information that you can provide Terry directly,
Okay.
go to our engineers and figure out what's in the pipe, what specifically is being talked about, what are the conditions that are being put on there, so it helps us out.
Okay,
Okay.
we can do that.
And I'm gonna leave some cards.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
And I appreciate the long slog up here, but also, we have no internet in this building. So that's a difficulty for having remote meetings, plus a lot of people here in Akron don't have good internet service at all, so they couldn't even participate even if we had. But we do have you have a remote jigger.
Yeah, we could.
We can zoom one person in and they can be ahead to talk something, if there's something that has to happen. Take care.
Nice seeing you
Thanks
all.
for coming, I
Thank
really
you very
appreciate it.
much.
No, I've seen it today. Yes, anybody heard from Orlando,
No,
He was supposed to be back weeks ago. I should reach out to him.
We're also update here because someone on the special meeting last week had requested an update. I don't know that we have any new information, but I thought I'd put it on here in case there was anything from Chuck or from Jackie Owens if she was here. Any new news about the grow house stuff?
No, other than I keep hearing about more of them, and I keep sending them over marijuana fix task force. I don't know if I told you this guy, but the team that works with the marijuana team, the sheriff's team that works with marijuana to clean up the property says their understanding is that the concentration, the focus is shifting now to the indoor grows. Because they figure mostly because the ones out on the east side are shut down because it's too cold.
Yeah, I was going to say the weather shifts now.
So they're shifting focus to the indoor grows. I think I had 2 or 3 calls since last week reporting indoor grows in Acton, including one really near your house.
I'm tacitly aware, but
so I just sent that one over today. I don't know what's going on down in here because the sheriffs don't tell us what they're doing. I hear about it in roundabout ways. Like I heard that there's a special 2-man patrol out on the far east side looking for water thefts. And I was talking to the gentleman before the meeting, and they said they don't really have any more water thefts than they used to have in Acton, so they're not stealing out of your guys'.
No, but what they could be doing, and why District 37 is still important, is a lot of the grows are in District 37.
Oh, yeah, they're just using tap water.
Yeah. But so if there's a significant increase in water that coincides with a suspected grow house, that's another mechanism. Because they told us literally almost 2 years ago, that their policy is you're not allowed to use potable water for ag operations. So right there is an opportunity to cut their water off.
If that's long, because
that's why I was asking.
Most places you wouldn't use potable water, so it's so expensive. You can't pay city rates and grow carrots.
They're paying $1.2 $2 million for houses worth $700.
Yes, yeah, they don't want to make so much money that they can pay any charge, any surcharge.
So if your group it's supervisor's office, could work with the sheriffs and lead tips people to coordinate with District 37.
See whether, yeah.
Because if they have that, because that's what they told us, and
Yeah.
hand to God, that's what they said, then and you have to do service connection agreements, right?
Yeah.
And so if that's a part of the agreement, they just cut the water, and then those roads go.
Of course, I do know a house in Quartz Hill where the people kept turning the water back on just to live there. The story I heard is that the water district poured concrete around their meter to stop them from turning it back on. Yeah, I can check on that. I do know of a suspected indoor grow in Yana, and I was just asking, well, how much water are they using? Well, they're not really using any more water than anybody else does. So I don't know how much they use. But yeah, I think we should check on that as to whether that's another avenue to get out to the grows. I imagine the grows are using houses with their own wells too.
Well, and I think that's part of the significant problem out here is that.
Yeah, the one in your house,
Yeah.
had a big water tank in it,
Yeah.
so I suppose it's on its own well.
Last time District 37 was here, before COVID,
I'm sorry.
they talked about the metering, and they didn't really have a way to know what their leakage losses were. You remember that, Jackie? That
Yep.
there wasn't,
I do too.
they didn't have enough points in their measuring system to know where all the water was going.
But, yeah.
So I'm wondering if that's something we should talk about with them as well.
Yeah,
But I would imagine each meter they have historical data, like they can go like, Joe lived here for 20
Right,
years.
when
this
if
much,
you're
and all of a
stealing
sudden-
off of fire hydrants at
Yeah.
attached to 37, they're never gonna know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
but
exactly.
but these row houses, no one's living there, they're just, the pot's only living there. So if you consider a family of
John Kessler.
Hi.
I didn't know if you recognized
No,
him or
actually,
not.
we met, so nice to meet you.
And he was at our meeting
Okay.
today.
Awesome. So,
You wanna talk
yeah,
about
I'm saying,
You talk.
No, you could.
I don't want to talk. I'm tired. I already was there for 3.5 hours.
So we got a last minute email on Wednesday afternoon saying from Mr. Edelman from the Parks and Recs that he has an opportunity to talk to a gal named Kat from the Nature Conservancy, a couple who own some property adjacent to the Nature Conservancy, and about getting the Nature Conservancy property to be opened back up for equestrian and non-motorized trail use. So, and he was like, "Could you guys come? Somebody come get trails people." So we pulled some rabbits, Pam pulled some rabbits out of her hat, and we had a lot of people there today and learned about Mr. Kessler's hacked email, so we finally got his real email and reached out to him. Yeah, so
he's done all this.
Yeah.
yeah, he's done all this
Yeah.
work. So there was we went all the way to the end of the Conservancy property today, out to the forest boundary, right near North Star Minerals, believe it or not. That's where
Yeah,
it
coming from
comes
the backside.
And so we did get out to the end, and they wanted to hear, and so I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Kessler, where equestrian folks in our community would like to enter and exit their property for access to the forest, rather than going up the path of a Ross Street, past Delta, past some houses that are not very friendly because they're marked, do not enter, and all this other stuff, even though it's a road. And it's a much more pleasant, we drove up to the end on Nature Conservancy property and then back on a Ross Street, and it's hugely much better to go up. And that was very clear. So, and after the meeting, just so you all know, the Cat from the Nature Conservancy and Mr. Edelman from Parks and Recs and the couple who owns the property at the very end all went into their property to meet. So we left a,
I got the cards.
I'm
from-
assuming there's
her
some
name
sort
is
of
Kat. Didn't you already get one?
Yeah, did I? Maybe I did.
You did, and I think Trina gave me some.
Okay.
So Kelly
I
needs
just
one
did-
for sure.
Yeah, Kelly didn't.
And I definitely have a map in the car that I'm about to bring in for either.
With trails.
Yeah.
And the Nature Conservancy was a big sore point for me because they acquired the property with state, local, and federal funds.
Yep.
And then blocked it all off. And without so much as a hello, Acton, up yours or anything like that. So sorry.
Forget that remark.
So this is a great, the fact that
Yeah,
they're
no, this is.
anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Kessler. You can share if you'd like.
Okay, well, in general, I guess you guys have discussed a lot of the trails that I mapped out over the last couple of years. COVID was good in that I was able to work from home and acquired kind of a group of riders. One local gentleman moved up here from down in Burbank area and was asking me where are the trails, and I said, well, I ride this place and I ride that place, and so I started mapping out GPS trails because we like to go on 12 to 15 mile long rides and generally spirited rides. So generally finding rougher terrain that is still healthy for the horses and interesting. And I found out that as I was going around town, the thoroughfares were being closed as I,
Right behind you.
Next thing you know, there's a fence. Next thing you know, there's a gate. And so I started becoming very active in trying to preserve these before we become another Santa Clarita that closes off. They closed off everything, even their equestrian areas. You pretty much have to get into a horse trailer and tow somewhere to be able to ride. So I don't want to do that. I want to be able to ride out from my house and go various places. And I have about 10 different go-to trails. Well, one of them was this trail. It just, unfortunately, this fence was always knocked down by somebody with a four-wheel truck or something like that. So, and the signs were also old. I just figured, well, if it's a road, we would ride up that road and either back down a restaurant or we'd go up some of the riverbed higher up that is drier. Catch a single track, catch a single track trail that dumps out behind the baseball fields.
Okay.
And that was one of the areas that Mr. Edelman was talking about. Was he didn't want that mentioned today because he didn't want somebody to say, well, if you already have it way up there, then why should we open this for you? But that's sort of a there and back type of thing. So to be able to create some scenery and and it actually across that property becomes a more of a novice type ride because it's very well graded, wide road. It's been there for a long time. There's actually a strip of asphalt, I'm sure you guys saw that. It's very odd, about 100 feet long with a stripe down the middle and in the middle of nowhere.
It was a movie set, he told us.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, that is an interesting area, and there is actually a fairly interesting landmark on it that we didn't mention, but it's at the top of the mountain, small mountain there. There's two graves, and one of them is Hattie Farmer's grave.
Yeah, okay, I know where you're at
there. So that is on that conservatory property.
Okay.
I like what they're going for. They're trying to preserve that area. They're going to possibly repopulate that stream with some frogs that are
Red-legged frogs.
The red-legged
frogs that are endangered. And I don't think that river ever really, you can't get down to it anyway. So it's mainly if we open it, you have to respect the fact that you need to stay on the trail. And so I think people are able to do that. So.
Well, the struggle has always been that a lot of these conservancies have the idea that we just want development and not preserve or respect the land, which is just completely not true. If anyone's even looked at our CSD, you have to preserve. You can't remove more than 10% of your vegetation without having to go through CDP. So trying to get that message through is not easy. So this today I thought was really phenomenal. That I think the CAP got that message that we would respect the land and we just like this trail opportunity. But I don't know that you know this yet, but at our last meeting, the county said that we had been planning and we have people collecting GPS trails information. We were going to put it all on a platform like what you had and upload it to their system. What they told us is they want people to do it individually as they go on the trailer. And so what we got from Mr. Edelman today was Ms. O'Connor is working through that platform. And as soon as it's done, they're going to come up with really simple to follow instructions. And then they're going to have a tutorial for us, hopefully in person, for anybody on the trails. And there'll be enough people there who will be smart enough on it that we can train other people. So, although I pointed out to Mr. Edelman, well, I mean, everybody who was there today and others, but I pointed out to Mr. Edelman that the flaw in that plan is that our maps won't catch trails that we're no longer allowed to go on because they're fenced off. So, for example, Parker Mountain up Acton Avenue, which we've been working on very diligently. So he said he recognized that and understood that, and that they're just suggestions, but somehow we have to make sure we reinforce that, you know, as an issue. So, I don't know, if people have historic GPS data up to Parker Mountain, you have that, and you can put that on your...
That may, actually.
Okay, that would be...
Has that been blocked off recently?
Oh, yes, it's all blocked, you can't get up there anymore, from Acton Avenue.
From Acton.
No, that's why we,
But
we've been pushing hard on that because we've given the county 3 different ways we think they can open it up. So, and they're mulling it over. We're doing what we can. We said make a class 4 trail. So if you have any old GPS data and can show that that was an access route, that would be very useful. So,
well, I did ride through there, yes, so I do have.
that would be great if you could add that to your map because
I can't tell you whether that it was closed or not at the time.
I don't think there's a date on the tag on the don't worry about that. The other thing is, well, yeah, if you look at the creating documents, they're not supposed to put anything in the right of way that doesn't normally go on the road. So that fence is completely illegal, and that was our big discussion. Regional planning and Public Works approved it. And I'm like, you cannot do this, because offers of dedication of the lifeblood of this community. The other thing we talked about today was the idea of first stop, last stop. What you were saying, you want to ride from your house. And a lot of people have said that. And first stop, last stop is a big transit thing, right? You got to figure out how somebody's going to get to their work from the minute they leave their door or entry to what. I said first stop, last stop, or first door, last door, or something. So, like, why can't we have that same philosophy in our trails? So, I don't know. I think the meeting went really well today.
I agree with you.
And that's what we expressed to him, to Mr. Edelman.
Mr. Edelman has been really a great champion. There was a lot of people that gave you lip service, and he's actually getting things done. So, getting things done back behind the ballpark there. My understanding is that they purchased the property.
We're going to talk about that next.
Okay, it's all really exciting stuff, and so. But my main goal was, I plan on living here, retiring here, want to keep riding my horses here. I don't want to have to load up a trailer and take my horses. It becomes something, why do I own horses if I can't go right off my property? I'm not an arena rider, I want to go up and explore. So.
My mom's a big trail rider down at Shadow Hills, and they've had the same kind of thing as development has come in and people have been blocking trails. And she does the same thing, she go out and ride.
You don't need to make it pretty. You don't need to have this.
Yes, you want it to look like.
I think he gets that message though, so that's good.
That's great.
That is really good.
Because that has been a thing where it's like, well, who's going to maintain, who's going to do this? And you're like, no.
It's dirt.
Let's have dirt that goes from here to there and let them be able to ride on it.
I was impressed that they went up with a drone and they went up and flew it above that single track.
Oh, they did? Oh,
yeah.
That's great.
They sent me a link at one point and I was able to watch it, but they went and hiked all up there and then they flew and recorded where it went along there behind the water tower there. That's behind the ball fields. And so they definitely were doing stuff on their own. It wasn't us just leading them by a rope saying, hey, come look at this. They took initiative.
Well, there's also some potential synergy too, because when I talked to Kat, she wants to talk to the town council because she wants to try to come up with ways to deal with the raven problem. The ravens up there are horrendous.
You know what, we might have there's an individual who lives in Acton who is in charge of the California Condo Project for LA Zoo. So he is a expert in birds of prey and things of that nature. And he is constantly posting about the raven problem. And so there might be some, his name is Michael Clark, so there might be worth reaching out and trying to get an ally in that aspect. But a lot of it has to do with, I can't remember, he had a post recently talking about, I think it's fishing. There is an entity because of the Migratory Bird Act and everything, but there is somebody who can do something about it. It's getting them to recognize how big of a problem it is that because they're not being in check, it's actually wreaking havoc on all sorts of other native.
Well, Nature Conservancy has the ability to amplify that message.
That's what I'm getting at. If we get good enough of these parties together,
Yep.
we might be able to get something done.
And would also teach them, you know, we're not anti-environment.
No, not at all. And I think it's a key thing because if they're going to go to restore some of this stuff, I don't know, maybe the ravens are going to go eat all those red-legged frogs and then bring back
I think that's part of their concern. I mean, they eat all the desert tortoise babies out there. So it's like
they're in the 60s. I ran into the last.
Get into all of it yet, but we just learned literally days ago that the county parks and recs have been in communication with a person who owns property adjacent to the access trail for the ballpark down near Country Way in Sierra Sports for a trail. And the problem I had with that is I was reading that and it made no sense because the county parks and recs has no map trail in that area. There is none. There is no map trail that goes into the forest from that area. So we have been told for years now, and it was hardcore no. County's not getting any trails unless it's on a mapped county trail adopted by the Board of Supervisors. So 3 or 4 days ago when this issue, when we got this document that's saying that the county parks and recs is actively working with this property owner for trails, I didn't believe it because there's no map trail. I checked. So I'm not sure. We have no GPS in that area. Not across this property, we don't. It's a property that's, here's the rehab, here's the ballparks, right? Or maybe I'm this way. And it's this property here, you're talking about this property out here. But they claim it's for trails needed to get to the Angeles Forest.
I think, well, what they showed me was it's directly north of the ball field. So it's that big area that was open that they used to do sometimes mud runs and stuff like that.
Yes,
So it's that property there in an attempt to, and I might be speaking out of turn, but I was told that they were going to create a staging area where you could tow in and catch that trailhead, which is the trail that I mapped for them that goes back behind that water tower. And it's single
But
track.
that is not
Head
what's in
straight
the
to
proposal.
So the
That's the
proposal's
problem.
completely different.
Yeah, and that's
Interesting.
well, and the other part of it is there is no map trail there. But the reason it's important is if they're really, because this was all going to get approved like in January. So somehow they must have a way to get a map trail done within 3 months. Because, you know, I think that the Parks and Rec Department would know that we would be very unhappy if they accepted a trail that wasn't mapped. Because they've told us time and again, every trail we've asked for, they've said no, because it's not mapped. Because all their map trails are on highways and they're dangerous. And it's a really big bone of contention for me, and for a long time, and for all of us. So if they are able to be that nimble to get this new trail mapped,
This is great news.
then we need all of these other trails mapped, like within the next, I hate to say it, but 6 weeks. I mean,
It's very fast.
The bonus about this particular trail is that there is a teeny little strip of what I've understood was county land right behind It goes up into Tammy Necessaries and Glen Necessaries. You probably all know Tammy Necessary,
Yeah.
their property, which is 112 acres along there. And they said that they were willing at one point to deed that, just the strip where the trail was, to the county. And that would get it to National Forest. And so
Well, that would be great.
I've given them her name.
Yeah.
They were supposed to call her, so that may be also in the works. I don't know.
But what's frustrating is they should be talking to us about it. And that's the thing. And I don't know why they're not talking to us. I was very grateful for what happened today. But there's still like a lot of mystery shrouding a lot of other things. And
We just
radio
want
silence.
we just want another combination to make things happen. Like, what order I put, yeah, no.
I don't know
Yeah,
either.
no, but and then obviously, like, there's some movement, like today, it's great. Does anybody know which levers we pulled in what order to get today's outcome? Because
Right.
we just need to reiterate that so we get.
And
I can tell you Robert
Edelman
Edelman is a key to this. He has been the one champion, whereas everybody else, they talked a really good game. We had a lot of meetings,
Yeah,
but
didn't go anywhere.
he's a real doer.
Okay,
So,
well, maybe that's the.
No, he's a tremendous asset.
He is.
But we still have to overcome this, we don't get trails where they're not mapped. Okay, so why are you getting a trail here and you won't give us a trail there?
Yeah, well, and maybe asking the way of like, how do we get that done?
Yeah.
You know, this was great. How do we replicate this? Because there's all sorts of places like this that we just want to do the same thing.
Yep.
So how can we help?
Or I can't conceive of any reason why he wouldn't, if he's going to upgrade the map for that trail that you gave him, he needs to upgrade the map for all the trails we've given him. There's no reason not to.
I agree. Yeah.
So,
Cool.
at one point, that trail was on a map. It was a county map, but the trail never really existed where they drew this big swath over. And I actually explored it many times to try to find it, used GPS, looked at aerial photos, and there was no trail there. But that's how I found the real trail.
well, if you have a document of, there was an actual trail there.
Yeah,
that's
I
what
actually
happens. If
have
you can
county
send that-
maps that, Parks and Rec map that was given to me, and Kimberly Dwight gave me one. I think she was the one that gave me one, and it had a big, and remember when we were having those early meetings, and there was a big purple line?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I said, this is where it's supposed to be, it's where I superimposed that map from Kimberly Dwight on there, and said, is supposed to be a trail, but it does not exist, and it's too steep of terrain to ever create a trail there.
Is it on forest land?
No, that would still be on the necessary land, Tammy and Glenn.
Okay. Because I have all those maps getting back to 2005, and some had those purple and black dashes, but they were different place. There was, where this trail is, across this property, there's nothing that the county has mapped right now.
Yeah, if I could find that physical map,
That would be great. I appreciate that. Thanks.
I don't know where I put it.
So we have more things to talk about with Measure A, but that was the trails part, so I don't.
Great, okay, thank you, I need
Thank
to help for my wife.
Yes, no, bro. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much for coming.
Yeah.
Thanks for
We'll
going
let you know as soon
today
as
too.
we get the upload.
Uplift. I like it. That's uplifting.
So the other part of this Measure A, I don't know what you can tell.
I'm trying to think of how I can navigate.
So
We got a terse, meandering email.
very angry.
Yeah, from an individual from the Conservancy, right? The
Yep.
MRCA.
Mhm.
Basically, I don't know how to capture it.
Since the last meeting, you mean?
Yes.
Since, okay.
So we had the meeting, and then we got it that night or the day after.
Oh, okay.
24 hours.
Oh, okay.
It was addressed to us, and then several folks in the county, I don't remember who else was on that, but basically calling into question how we were characterizing the acquisition of the property, and saying that we didn't know what we were talking about.
And saying if that sports facility is
Well,
what you
also-
in this community want,
Yes.
that's not what we do.
That's not what we do.
And
But
it's-
again, I think we have to go back to, on the beginning of the letter, it began basically that we had not tried to reach out to MRCA. And if we had, we would have took the call at 3 a.m. if that's what it took. To us, it highlighted, it's not really on our onus to go find out all the people that are trying to do things in the community. It really is on the individuals doing things in the community to come to the town council and meet with the community and share what they would like to do. We can't read minds, and if we can, somebody tell me, because I would love to have that skill for lots of things.
Yeah.
But, so went from that into...
And to be fair, we wrote them 3 emails.
Yes, no,
And I kept
yeah.
calling that number,
Sure.
nobody answered.
No.
But I think some people may not know what you're talking about.
All right.
So you may want to start from,
Sure, so we had a meeting, a special meeting.
No, back up.
Back in further?
We got an email from a
Resident.
saying this.
There was a petition being passed around that was basically saying there was going to be a Catherine Barger sports complex built on property. The property was going to be acquired. It was near Sierra Sports Complex, and it was going to be acquired. And it was this beautiful sports complex. They had a website showing all the wonderful facilities that were going to be there. It said it was within grasp, it was within reach for the community to get this.
Just sign the petition.
Signed the petition. And so it was very targeted, went to lots of folks involved in sports in the community, at the high school and whatnot. So very targeted. I mean, I didn't get it. I'm not involved in sports. I mean, my kids are involved in sports, but...
well, I got it because I'm a parent.
Yes, so it was targeted as folks. They received some letters of support from those individuals.
And they were getting kids to sign it.
And you got kids to sign it, all excited because we're getting the sports complex. But the bizarre thing is from the Conservancy is who's acquiring the property. And that seems to be kind of counter to what they typically
They're not
have
known
done.
for fancy sports facilities, baseball, football, soccer, and track.
And to back
All
up
on that piece of property?
yeah, and to back up more,
It's like 80 acres,
Yeah.
it's huge. So.
it's a big plot. There were two other layers I'd layer with that. One is that historically when they've acquired stuff, we've lost access to it. So they haven't given us more access or said, oh, continue on. And
Like
just keep it open.
yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. I'd say that the second piece to this is it started to make reference to, well, this didn't make reference to, later we had a reference to, this was part of an Angeles linkage, which is nowhere near this property. So it'd be like if I said like Vasquez Rocks is part of the Angeles National Forest or something, just there's no connection. This doesn't set up a connection, it's an item. So at this point, we just get the letter. We have not responded yet to it. We wanted to discuss it here in person and kind of figure out what we want to.
So actually what happened last week, after all that, we heard from people who supported the project and submitted letters of support. And they said they thought they were supporting a sports facility. Now, we didn't have a position on either, right?
Well,
We didn't know about
we got
it.
dropped out of sky.
Yeah. So we
I didn't know if there was a deadline. I mean, things are.
You had to have your comments in by Monday. We learned about it, the email was sent to the town council on Thursday night. I didn't see it till Friday morning. So we had Friday and Monday and the weekend. So we put an emergency special meeting together on Monday, because if we had to take a position on it, we would have looked foolish if this big thing was going on and our town council didn't comment on it. Either if support it, then we look like we don't like sports, or oppose it, then we had to have a reason. We didn't know about it, right? So we had a special meeting to decide what to do. And we were very excited about this potential project.
Yeah.
We invited MRCA to go via email because
Yep.
they weren't answering their phone.
Didn't hear back, no phone call back, no.
And we invited the property of the representative
From the property.
and he agreed to come, and he came to that meeting, and it was a long discussion, but what we learned eventually was the idea of the sports facility was something that the property owner was floating, and he was floating as the representative. And so there was never going to be a sports facility.
So just to put this in the terms, because this got really confusing to me, let's just put it down to brass tacks. The representative property owner was putting forth an idea that the people buying or acquiring this property, MRCA, had no idea about it. So it'd be like me selling
We
my
don't
house.
know that.
Well,
They
they said,
kind of-
well, no,
so
but he did.
Oh,
He did, Mr. Raish did. He said, we don't know about
But
it.
Mr. Edwards said that.
No, Mr. Raish, who came on Monday,
Oh.
said they did not, the
village
representative, said MRCA doesn't know about it.
Can you tell them what NRCA is?
Yeah, it's
Mountains
Mountains
Recreation and Conservation Authority.
So who are they? Are they?
They are a joint powers association made up of the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy and a few other.
So are they the ones that own the, like, a robin's nest and stuff like that?
They, oh, so
Yes.
that's an example.
Yes.
Right. They
Yeah, Robin's
bought
Nest,
that
Well,
in 2016, and it's,
Closed it up.
yep. And so, and we put that in, so, well,
Yeah.
on Monday, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was saying, so we brought up, Mr. Rish, who is the representative of the property owner, says that basically, no, this was an idea they put forward, and they were hoping to get community buy-in so they could, it sounded like basically inform MRCA, this is what the community would like to see. Okay, great. We reached out to Supervisor Barber's office to say, hey, did you know, we stuck your name on it. So
People are excited about your
people are
sports.
excited about your sports complex. I don't know if I'm mischaracterizing, but the supervisor seemed surprised.
Yes. She did not, yes, we did not know there was going to be a supervisor, or that it was proposed to be a supervisor.
Yes.
And so the same property owner representative guy, he proposed a sports complex up in the unincorporated Santa Clarita area, so he apparently likes sports complexes.
Okay. Apparently, it's a one trip that's worked very well. So,
What it said, didn't go anywhere, so.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying though, but I mean, I wonder if it got garnered the same support which got whatever over the finish line. But, yeah, so the concerns there, I think there's some other deep concerns I have is that the same individual then reached out to me on my home phone and my LinkedIn page wanting to talk about it after the meeting. And then wrote a thing in saying that they were wanting to make a generous donation to show that they were serious about the proposal. It was not how do you phrase it? They were serious about wanting to help the community, essentially.
But the donation is to the Friends of Acton Park, which we are not.
Which we are not.
Oh, actually, no. The donation was to the park.
Yeah.
And since we are not the Friends of Acton Park. And
I don't know. Yeah, we don't know how we didn't.
We're participating. We're trying to participate with Friends of Acton Park, but they're not. I don't know what's going on. They're not getting back to us.
Yeah.
Either, so.
So you're saying that the guy said that he was going to sell it to the Conservancy, but he would tell the Conservancy that they had to build a sports park?
No, they wouldn't have to do it. The community would like that.
No, but what he said, what led people to believe is that the Conservancy was on board with this idea of a sports center.
So,
And he said it, he went beyond just suggesting it, he actually said it.
Yeah.
And,
So then we flash forward to the letter we got from somebody from the MRCA who said like, no, that's not what they do.
I'll tell you what they
Wait,
said.
wait. So on the meeting on Monday, we voted to oppose the project because many residents in this town supported it
Based on
the sports complex that we had learned was never going to happen. And so we opposed it. It's like, you have to come and talk to us before you do these things. And that's what I was talking with Mr. Kessler. There's so much stuff that's being done in the dark that is for the benefit
So
of our
what is it
community.
got to, so that piece of property, then you were also talking about the piece that's right behind it, that they want to put a trail, is that the same guy?
This is all new.
Yeah,
We just found that out when you did.
But I mean, is that the same guy doing the same, saying the same thing?
No, it's a different conservancy.
So the head.
Different Conservancy, oh gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nature
They love that.
conservancy and a roster of it. But he was talking about the trail in the same.
Yeah, no,
property.
yeah.
Yeah, it's all.
It's complicated.
And everybody's talking to the county, and nobody's
one's
talking to
talking
the
to us.
community. They're having little conversations, county with this person, and this person with this person, and I'm tired of it.
Yeah. So
the sports complex guy wasn't talking to us, Parks and Rec didn't know this was going on.
Yeah.
We didn't know.
Well, wait,
he was speaking for the supervisor. If you looked on and you read the text on his website, actonsportscomplex.com, he was actually speaking for her.
And also,
I know without authority.
but also,
yes.
But I mean, it just wasn't a suggestion that maybe she would be on board or this could be presented to her. He was actually speaking for her.
I mean, we put the screenshots.
Yeah, but he never talked.
So I'm sure she's very upset.
Yeah, I would be.
Beyond upset.
Yeah.
but we also, okay, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
So we voted to oppose it, we wrote the letter, we explained why, and you need to be honest in what is being proposed, especially if you're using, this is Measure A funds.
This is our community's fund.
Park funds that we as county residents pay into. And if you look at the guidelines for all the park funding, the primary thing you have to do is provide some sort of recreational opportunity. And we pointed out that the Nature Conservancy lands were shut off as soon as it was bought with taxpayer money, it was shut off. Bird's Nest, as soon as it was bought with taxpayer money, and I have all those documents, it was closed off as well. So we are concerned that this is going to be another example of that happening, and you do it, you buy it, you give our money to these people, and then it gets closed off, and we have no idea what's going on.
And Mr. Raish also mentioned that the buyer, MRCA, was using state funds, and that this was another slice of money they were going to use in the acquisition.
And then somehow give it back to the county.
Yes, that was also, yeah.
There was also.
So we voted to oppose it, and it was a Measure A grant action through the county, our RPOSD, Regional Parks and Open Space District, which is run by the county. It's a county, under the county, it's managed by the county, under the county, but it's in its own special district. So those proposals were due at 10 a.m. on Thursday, so we got our letter in by 9:30, and we asked to have it included, and we CC'd MRCA on it. To the same address, the only email address, if you go to their website, there's one email address available. It's info@mrca.org. It's the only one you can, only way to reach them. So that's the only way, there's only one phone number, and they never answered it. So then
we get the letter, and asked you.
yes, it was not a very nice email.
Yeah. And so, yeah, so that gets you up to speed of where we're at.
And the
Not
email
quite,
came from
wait, no.
Well,
From the head of MRCA.
Oh.
But he also attached the proposal.
yes.
And when you look at the proposal, it goes into, says in many, many places that MRCA is working with the county right now to develop trails on that property. And that's why I said I called baloney, because there's no map trail in that area. So I didn't believe their proposal, because we've been told by Parks and Recs over and over, we do not even talk to people about trails unless it's on a map trail. So how could they be working a deal with the property owner to get parks measuring funding for trails that there's no map trail for?
Who would get that money? Would it be the Conservancy or the owner of the property?
The Conservancy wrote the proposal,
Uh-huh.
and it turns out in this proposal, they're gonna pull money from the state, and they're gonna pull money from the county under Measure A to buy this land.
Oh, so he would get, so this is.
So the property owner gets his money.
Oh.
But he said they were in escrow too.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Okay, so according, well, here's the other kicker, if you, because I've been through this proposal very carefully. The letter of agreement, they'll say, when you, before you open escrow in these sort of situations, you arrange for the price and then you write a letter of agreement, or what do they call it, a letter of intent to purchase, right? And it fixes the price so it's all nailed down, right? And they did that. They did that before even the emails came out on Thursday. So they had the price, they knew everything, right? It was agreed to between MRCA and this property owner. And I'm sure there was contingencies, had to get the funding and all that other stuff. So, but if you look at their proposal, they say we're going to start the public outreach to the community in June of next year. After the land had been acquired, the money's transferred, and the deeds were done. And it's like, and it's in the proposal. I have so many notes on this proposal, it's shocking. And so I've spent a long time working with Wildlife Control Board. I had a long conversation with them today, and Fish and Wildlife, on where these properties are, how they decide where to buy them. Because this proposal says, it's helping the San Gabriel Castaic linkage. Billions of public funds are going into buying the land based on these caps, and you don't make them publicly available. Well, we don't want you to know the names and addresses of the parcels. I'm like, I don't want the details, I want the map.
Black that out, yeah.
And so I said, what the problem I have is when RPOSD or some other agency, Fish and Wildlife, whatever, gets a proposal for $3.4 million, which is what this was for, and says, oh, okay, it's going to help the Castaic cat, it's going to help the Angeles, whatever, Castaic, San Gabriel linkage, it's going to help the Angeles linkage. okay, we're gonna give $3.4 million to this property owner.
That's how much they wanted for?
Yeah.
Yes. And
For that piece where the baseball fields are.
the baseball field is on county.
To the south.
It's county-owned land, actually. It's
Um,
part, but it's the property just next to it.
Where they
Yes.
used to do the
To the
mud.
park, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Oh.
And so I asked him, I said, so do you just take their word for it that it's in these places? And if you don't make the maps publicly available?
No one checks the work?
Yes. So in my research, it gets even worse. In my research,
How much more can they get?
I'm about to show you something that's horrifying. I finally found, okay, so there's something called SQURCA, which is the Santa Clara Watershed Regional Conservation Authority. And that is another joint powers association made up of MRCA, Santa Monica Mountains, City of Santa Clarita, and some other group. And they have a work program. Now, what a work program is, that I've been told, I can't find it in writing anywhere, so this is just hearsay, is it's basically the map of the areas that they want to preserve for protection, right? And here's the oranges, and my color printer wasn't working. Here's Acton in black.
Yeah.
It's orange.
It's all of Acton. Cool.
Well, at least
All of
half
Acton's gonna be
half
part of
of
it.
Acton. Yes, at least half of Acton,
Half of
including a
Acton.
lot of homes, your home.
Thank you.
The high school,
They're gonna protect it, man.
the high school.
The high school?
Yeah, the high school is right there.
So they're saying that the Conservancy would want to buy that.
No, okay, so this is how they do it. They get it mapped, they map it, then they don't tell the public about the map. They don't let the public have access to the map. And nobody knows about this organization even existing, and then suddenly that's their work plan for what they want to get. So,
If a property comes up for sale in that zone,
no, that not even comes up for sale. They'll go make an offer.
oh, no, but yeah, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
they're not declaring
With
everything.
taxpayer
But
funds.
yeah, they're taking our money
Without
back.
talking to this community.
It's great.
Like, I mean, like.
It's a good scam.
It is a scam.
Santa Clarita is
So-
trying to take over Acton.
No, the state, no, it's the Conservancy.
This SQURCA group, and this is their this is their 2020 map that was adopted. So,
So what would Santa Clarita do with us? Do with all this land, just have open?
just give it to animals and stuff.
Well,
Just give it to animals.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, I think you look at just the growth, and I mean, all you do is look what they did to St. Canyon.
Oh, yeah.
So St. Canyon, that was promised when they got, when they joined the city, we're gonna leave you alone, you can stay, blah, blah, blah. And then now, they're gonna put traffic signals, that whole neighborhood's about to be
Yep.
just reworked. So, yeah, I would do that, or you look up Sierra Highway, you look up Sierra Highway, that huge development going in there, and then I think this morning I just saw that Shadow Pines, so from Shadow Pines to Agudolce Canyon Road, there's a 500 or 600 acre development going in there. That was approved, but now it's actually moving forward. You're gonna have, so everything is,
500 homes.
yeah.
But what they're saying here, I think in exchange for being allowed to do, I think what's happening is in exchange for all that development, they're going to preserve, we're their, what do you call it, mitigation bank.
Oh.
The green belt.
And the problem I have is the city, that this property that they're acquiring, there's nothing, there's no, I mean, it's very close to, there's like a little skinny bit, maybe it's the one he was talking about, that attaches it to the forest,
I think
forest,
that's
right? But there's no, I'm sorry?
No, I think that is what it was.
Yeah, but there's no, it's like an island, and it's got.
It's not connecting
rehab-
anything.
It's got the rehab and the sports facilities. And if you read this proposal, it talks about, and Chuck, I don't know if you know about this, but there have been detailed conversations between MCRA, MRCA, and the county on this proposal. And that's what, it was just.
Which one, on this one?
Yes, on
On the sports complex?
well,
Well, not, no.
No, because, in fact, I'm putting that, I was thinking that we discussed this, you and I, we were all in a meeting with the Parks and Rec people, but that's adjoining property that's owned by the Nature Conservancy.
yeah, we were talking about Nature Conservancy, and we were talking about Tammy Necessary's bit, too. Now, I just now found out that was the part that John was talking about when he was, but it doesn't matter, it's not mapped. So I don't understand, we have been told county parks will not talk to us about a trail anywhere that's not mapped. Yet the county, according to this proposal, the county's been in deep discussions with MRCA to make, on this property, to preserve it and maybe allow trails.
Well,
But no equestrian facilities, no thing like he was talking about where you can bring up.
Trailhead, yeah.
No, yeah, I mean, it's like,
But this would be MRCA problem, they can put as many trails on there if they want to without.
okay,
Yeah,
but the problem,
but it was convoluted though, because the conversation that was had on Monday, it was thrown around that like they were gonna deed it back over the county. There was some weird.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what a property owner who wants the sports complex said. He said, oh yeah, the county can build the sports complex.
Yeah, no, but even beyond that, it was thrown out too, that.
The MRCA says they would hold on a land.
Yeah, MRCA said like, whatever you've been hearing, you're on drugs, is basically what it sounded like.
They said that as the antithesis.
Yeah, they literally said like.
Sports complex.
Yeah, they
Yes, antithesis
and
of
if that's
sports
what the
complex.
community wants, that's not what's gonna happen
Yeah,
there.
so I think to put a punctuation point on it, it seems really screwy to take our Measure A funds for recreation and give it to a thing that's gonna become, on its face, it said, we're not doing that, like, we're gonna basically lock it off and make it like a.
But
No,
it
it
is
says they
proposed.
make it a trailhead and trail access to the forest.
But they might not, like, that's what
There's
I'm.
no guarantee.
That's what they said.
Yeah, but I can see whatever, like, I'm a unicorn, I mean, like, I don't, unless it's like literally in the deed, or like, this.
And plus, they can't even propose it because there's no map trail there.
But no, I
No,
know,
he's
it's
saying it's
the
a private.
MCA, it's a different government entity, they can have trails going under which way without.
No, I get what you're saying, but in that proposal, they say that they're working it out with the county to connect it because you don't have access to that property except for on county property with the rehab. You have to access it across the rehab.
Yeah.
That's where their
And they
access is.
said they would have a trailhead for equestrians to use. Yeah, yeah.
It's all being discussed in connection with the county and Parks and Recs.
Yes.
But that's impossible because there is no map trail there. Parks and Recs doesn't talk to people unless there's a map trail. They've told us that straight up.
Reason to do it. That's the whole thing,
Yeah,
Jack,
but
you keep
this would not
saying.
be a trail the county would have to take over to maintain or at least own, like it would be that you talked to about through subdivisions. This would be a trail on another government park agency's property. The U.S. Forest Service can put trails all wherever they want to.
But before you ask to use our taxpayer money, 3.4 million, which is a lot of money, for a trail, you talk to the community first, and the trails community, and you don't tell them it's going to be a sports complex.
Well, but MRCA didn't tell them it was going to,
No, that's the problem. MRCA never said a word to anybody.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm so frustrated with.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, it's like, to me, the punctuation is, they didn't talk to us about how we wanted to spend our Measure A money, and if that's what we wanted to spend it on, but they're gonna go spend it for us. So there was never, when I say us, I'm talking about the community, town council. The community, there was no, Friends of Acton Park were touched on, I mean, like, none of us. I mean, we reached out to Friends of Acton Park once we saw this was all going on, like, hey, you guys are kind of like a big part of the recreation of the town, like, do you get to do anything with Measure A? And they were like, and so, that's all we're saying is that they completely leapfrog the whole thing, and like, it's like being in a race and you didn't know you were in a race, and all of a sudden they're at the finish line with their proposal in hand, and no one in the community was consulted.
It was very misleading.
And by the way, if you read the documents that created the Nature Conservancy, it said in there, providing park recreation, and it says specifically trails and birding opportunities. That's the condition under which they got the taxpayer money to buy it, and it's shut off. So MRCA can say whatever it wants to say to get the money it wants for this facility, but why should we believe it?
Yeah, well, and I go back to like,
And what are you afraid they're going to do with it?
They're using our money.
You're just afraid they're going to spend taxpayer money
well,
to buy this land.
and block it off. Like, in other words, it's not, the Measure A funds are supposed to be for recreation, right? Like that's on
A whole bunch of stuff, yeah.
Sure, but I mean, that's one of the
That's the first thing.
That's the first thing on the
because
list.
it's a parks and recreation.
Yeah, so here you're gonna take something and not use it for that at all, and you didn't consult the community. I mean, like, great, I'm gonna go down to like,
No, but they got kids to sign
Needs
that.
analysis
Yeah,
is a big, huge piece of property, with a bunch of trails.
Yeah.
It's not.
Well, and then I'll go further, because, I mean, this is a different Edelman, who's the gentleman from MRCA. basically said like, oh yeah, like the Robbins Nest thing, the reason that it's not open is because it's like basically a cesspool and the sheriffs don't even want to go in there and all this stuff, right? So the other point is like, here they acquired a piece of property and they're gonna make it open for, and then they've done nothing with it. So now we're gonna acquire more property.
They said they were cleaning it up.
That was in 2016.
Yeah. So it's still not.
They had a tractor down there a month ago?
But
But they don't let anybody,
No.
yeah, and why is it a cesspool? Because they let it get overgrown so bad that you
No,
couldn't,
Your squatters.
Yeah, there was all sorts of problems, but the point being is that I don't know what they're going to do with this. So they don't have a track record of working well with the community where they delivered on what they were supposed to do. Their charge is, hey, we're going to have recreational opportunities. If they'd done it to one of the things they acquired here in this town, we'd probably all have a different feeling about it and say, okay, I still don't think it's the first thing on the community's list of things we want.
And we can always rescind the opposition. The proposal has been submitted, I understand. So it's like, well, nobody listens to us anyway, so.
here's the point, why are they using, if they're a conservancy, which they get millions.
Authority, okay, Joint Powers, what did I say, Association Authority?
It's a
JPA, they're
It's a
JPA.
government agency, and it's.
But there are many of them, and they branch into like Skorka is also a JPA, made up of the same group.
Just with more.
So MRCA, but this is Skorka's map, but MRCA is buying land near it.
So if we want to sell our land, we should just talk to these authorities and tell them we want $5 million for it. But if they're in that order, then they'll buy it.
Yeah. So.
But they're saying that this guy's asking for money.
Yeah, I bring it up.
But I don't.
Oh, yeah.
So let's put.
So what did they say in that letter to you that was so nasty? What did they say?
They're just angry.
Yeah, they're just like, so disappointed to receive. Yeah, so disappointed to receive the town council opposition letter because I do believe MRCA wants from day one what the letter expressed is the town council's interest. Whatever it takes to save the land is what we want. The town council supervisor wants sports stuff, maybe that's possible. But
Sports stuff.
But the State Wildlife Conservation Board, the Rivers and Mountains Conservancy, and Measure A acquisition only grants are not designed for that type of use. Who at MRCA you've talked to, we put our blood, sweat, and tears in this application on the TPL-funded grant writer. These deals are extremely difficult to put together. Each one is borderline miraculous. The same applies to Robbins Nest, Soledad Canyon project mentioned earlier in the letter. TPL takes all the financial risk, putting the deal and funding together, and the MRCA is to take out or end party owner. I do believe the town council desired for the MRCA to buy and own and manage public open space. TNC is not understood. If there's animosity about the slow public access to MRCA lands in Soledad, Stickleback and Robbins Nest, all the rest is free and open. Please recognize that these sites were hellholes of debris, dangerous structures, live wire squatters, roving copper thieves, many night visitors, lock cutters, you name it. Both burned too. Public Works is working to restore Stickleback, but cross-stream access is an issue. Cannot kill listed Stickleback fish. Think about the ownership right down the street from Stickleback, clean up that.
Something about frogs.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever seen a stickleback fish here?
There are people on this land, and that's the problem.
Oh.
That's what all that means. There were people.
Well, I think that's what this means.
That too. That's what it always means.
But these people are living somewhere, are they living on the moon? They're living too, so why can't we live?
Well, I'll just say this, and we'll put this on the agenda again for the next meeting if that's okay. 'Cause
Yeah.
we'll have more information.
Absolutely. No, I think it's gonna,
But I will say this, there's nothing to prevent us from rescinding our opposition letter, but I want.
They have to come here and tell us and prove to us that this is us.
They need to talk to the community for us to support their project. Well, more information on that later, I can't get into that right now. But we
So do
need
you guys
information
know who
for
owns the
Friday.
land? Because there's always a sign over there that says it's some church group that owns it.
It also says movie ranch.
Yeah, movie ranch,
It
but
says-
it was a church group there for a while, the sign was up there, then it got covered over by the.
This is the last little bit of documents, and I still don't have it, so we will, because there's actually a bomb that's gonna go off at the next meeting once we get this document.
It's owned by the governor. Well. Bum, bum, bum.
Use the ballparks
Yeah.
as overflow parking.
Yeah.
So a concern, at a minimum, we need to talk to these people, or the sports facility needs to talk to these people, not only facility, sports ballpark people needs to talk to these people about being able to use it for parking, for the ball fields, because the ball fields are
Are
really
you asking
important.
us to see if they can conserve the parking?
I'm pretty sure that overflow parking is an antithesis of their intention.
That's why we need to talk.
And the parkers are very rare, so you have to save them, you have to conserve the parking.
So on this agenda item, recognizing there might be more information at the next meeting,
Yes.
I think we should extend an invitation to them.
Oh, absolutely.
To come,
I
town council.
think we should. Again, like we've done with like the mineral folks, Star Mine recently, and other Edison tonight, that it's an open door that they, anytime they would like to come talk to us, anything that they'd like to do here, we would love to talk to them.
Yeah, but on this particular thing,
Yeah.
they need to come here soon if they want us
To do anything different.
reconsider the
Correct.
position.
Yes, but I also think it's an opportunity to present and say, cool, like, you got our number, we have your number,
Right.
answer when we call, that'd be great. But also, let us know what you're looking at, you know, hey, we have this working map, any of that orange stuff there, you're
How
looking
much
at.
of this did you draw?
Yeah, which is your section, and just, if there's more acquisitions or things you're looking at, please get with us early, because we would, you know, you may have an idea of what you think we want to use our measuring funds for. We have a different idea, and I think the Friends of Acton Park have another idea. So there's a lot of other competing things. We'd like to bring those all together and maybe find something common.
Yep.
Maybe we could get support if they would say, hey, yeah, we'll lop off 30 acres and make that a sports thing, and we still get our linkage, and you get your sports thing.
Because another part of the concern, like what you're talking about, is my understanding is that because the county owns ballparks, and there's a use agreement, but that's expired, so there's not any legitimacy to using those ballparks. So it's really critical for our community to somehow, I don't know how, but get it together with the county to keep those ballparks available for people to use.
100%.
So is that?
So the county owns the ball.
Yes.
It's part of the rehab facility. apparently.
Oh,
I just learned that last week. So.
But there's an
we have
agreement
to
between the
close.
county and Sierra Sports. to
There
use-
was.
Yeah, it was.
Was.
It's expired.
Or,
Or
yeah.
is not in effect.
And if it's like a CUP, then CRU Sports can operate
Forever.
indefinitely.
I see.
So do we need a motion for that, to invite them to a town council meeting or upcoming
Yeah.
meeting? or-
I didn't understand.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
We
yeah.
invite MRCA to an upcoming meeting to discuss the status of this project and other projects.
Yes.
And consider revising our position.
Sure.
Did you get that, Kelly?
I'm sorry, I'll write it up right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll second
Second
that.
that.
Now, we have to have a meeting at 3 AM because I think it states in the email that you should contact
By
by
phone.
3 AM by
By
phone
He didn't
to
give us his
discuss.
phone number.
Well,
I mean, it's like, yeah, I would have called you at 3 a.m. I'm like, I'll call you at noon, just answer your dang phone. Give me a phone number that works.
all right. We'll make that a condition. Should we make that a condition of having the meeting with HR for a phone number?
It was a,
His letter to you sounds like he's either distancing himself or didn't know anything about the John Raish thing.
well, of course they're going to.
So that's confusing.
Well, I mean,
And it's all been very
buyers, you've got
misleading.
sellers, which is for the sellers, and these buyers are saying, we don't know what these sellers are trying
I
to
think
sell.
that the crux of the problem for me in this whole thing is you have a seller that's interested in getting the most money possible for the property.
Yeah.
You have- which is fine, but you have a buyer that has access to OPM, other people's money, which you just are not as concerned about. I personally, not writing a $3 million check for that
That's
particular
probably,
property.
yeah.
There's lots of other people, piece of property I would love to spend, if I had $3 million, I would love to spend on that. So the point being is that to me, there's a disconnect. There's no.
There's a disconnect, but they got in a very big hurry to get a lot of signatures from kids and parents, getting them excited about something that wasn't going to happen. And that's wrong, and that's bad, and that's what Supervisor Barber should be mad about.
Idiots that can be lied to and write letters of support.
And it was hurry, 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 it has to be in by October 25th, hurry, hurry, but only to certain groups. You guys didn't know, Friends of Acton Park didn't know.
It was very targeted.
Well, that's why I sent you guys the email, because that was just wrong. It was just wrong and misleading.
No, 100%, and like I said, the other problem is just there's a complete disconnect. There's a huge incentive for them to propose whatever crazy thing they want to get it through. Yeah. Cool. All right, any other discussion?
Good.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion's carried.
Thank you, Jackie.
Oh, that was my agenda. I need you back when you're done, Kelly.
All right, next up, SCWP water plan.
Oh, okay. SCW.
I pulled it back from somewhere.
Oh, okay. Okay, there has been an update on that, just an email today. Okay, so the ARTC, at the ARTC meeting, it was asked what was going on with the water plan. And I had said I planned to reach out to them about the status, because the water plan, last we heard, the draft was supposed to be out in March. And so we should have heard something by now on drafting it, because it's going to affect us quite a bit. You know, we have a lot of water issues here. And so we, have been looking for the opportunity to give input before it's drafted. So several emails were sent back and forth last week. We got an email, I think it was on Friday or today, I can't remember, saying, well, the outreach we're doing on drafting a plan is through the IRWIN process, the Integrated Regional Water Management Plan process. So if you want to provide input on the draft water plan, you have to participate in the IRWIN meetings, which are monthly or every 2 months. And that's really troubling to me, because the water plan is being done under Action 32, I think, of the Sustainability Plan. And the Sustainability Plan says straight up on page 17 that the actions in this plan will be implemented through a broad stakeholder process involving community-based organizations and, what's the word? I can't remember the exact word, and I can look it up, but a huge stakeholder process before they develop the plan. So if you're just going to talk to the IRWIMs on this plan, almost nobody participates in IRWIMs other than water agencies and some cities, right?
Yeah.
Like the city of Santa Clarita is the Santa Clara IRWIM. And the city isn't even going to be affected by this water plan, nor are any of these water agencies unless they're in unincorporated areas, right? So at least that's how I understand it. So I sent an email today after the tour saying, he sent an email to me clarifying to the town council saying, yes, we're just going to do it for now through the IRWIN. And so I CC'd Mary Johnson, so she was aware, and Susan Zonter from the ARTC, so that she could push that out. And he said, so if people want to participate, they need to participate through the IRWIN, and we will reach out to them and invite them to the IRWIN meetings. But I was frustrated by that, and I'm not happy with it, because IRWIN doesn't provide the community input platform that you need to draft a water plan. This water plan is, according to the sustainability plan, the objective, the target that they're trying to achieve is having 80% of their water locally sourced. And they're going to, among other things, increase extraction rates from local water basins to the point where it's sustainably yielding. But they have they don't define that. And so this water plan is the thing to achieve that huge objective. And according to county's own data, even if they collected all the runoff water from all the streets in the county of Los Angeles, that's still not, and they captured it, cleaned it, and used it for drinking water, it's still not enough to serve more than a third of all the county residents. So it's like, that means they're going to have to, if they really want to do 80% local sourced water, they're going to be increasing extraction rates out of places like this and other places. That's why the conversation with District 37 is so important, and we need to make clear what the basin deal is. So I am disturbed by this idea that they're going to develop this plan through the Irwin process that most people never even heard of. And I used to go to Irwin meetings, I know Lily used to go to them too, and you probably went to too, but I stopped going years ago when I got yelled at by some people living in Santa Clarita that you shouldn't be living in Acton. You should be living in the city. That place is for animals. I've had somebody shake their finger under my nose and say that to me. And so, you know, I'm like, okay, I just think of animals. Wildlife. Yeah, I mean, you know, I have my limits, so I stopped going. And to be fair, the Irwin people aren't like that. That was just a person who was in the audience at the meeting, and when she learned I was from Acton, she just launched on me as soon as the meeting was over. I'm like, I'm out of here. But, so I don't know what to do about this. They promised to have broad stakeholder input on the sustainability plan, and this is a critical action in the sustainability plan. And an 80% target is huge. I think it's wrong to just go through Irwin, but we have to run around and try to get everybody smart on Irwin.
So what about the water that comes through California Aqueduct and LA Aqueduct?
They're trying to, right now, that produces, I think that provides like 60% of the water to the county. AVEC and WMD, municipal, Western Municipal, whatever, MWD, Municipal Water District, whatever, Chuck, you probably know.
Metropolitan. That's the Colorado River. The state water project is the California Aqueduct, and then DWP has its Orange Valley.
Okay.
Right.
So those are all sources, and my understanding is they together combined provide almost 60% of our water, and they want to cut it down to providing only 20% of our water, so that we're more sustainably sourced here. Yes, well, I believe it's not really clear because the sustainability plan is not well written. No, but I believe that 80% is for countywide, cities, everybody.
That helps somewhat shade.
Yeah. But the county doesn't have jurisdiction over cities or LA, so it's only going to apply to us. And that means extraction rates are going to have to increase and stuff.
Wasn't this based on the state law that passed about, I don't know, 4 or 6 years ago? It says sustainability law. I remember.
Oh, no, that's Sigma. Are you talking about Sigma? The state of
this one
water
about
management?
water, where we actually had, they were talking about the sustainability. You have to have, it was the rain, it came up at the same time as the rainfall tax. But it was.
The sustainable groundwater management.
Yeah.
That's Sigma.
But this one, no, that was a different one. That's rainfall tax. Then there came another one where the entire state split into like 180 little sections.
Okay,
And
so
this is one, right?
Yes.
And where everybody has to be sustainable in their own little district. Santa Clarita won out because they actually have an elected board. So they were the only ones in this part of the state that got an exception from that. Everybody else mostly got county or other bureaucrats to be on their sustainability boards, not local, not
Right.
council.
And we didn't, right.
Not landowners.
Right.
So
Yep. And
you
yeah,
you get the directions from the state. This is what the state wants, passed on to the guy in charge of the sustainability boards.
right. So the rain tax, I think, was measured W, the safe clean water. And we're all in that. Well, most of us. People in Antelope Valley aren't, but we are. And then there's something called Sigma, which is the thing you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But if you could show that your basin was not overdrawn, or you were not as serious or significant overdrawn, you could exempt out. So we're not, I would also say got exempted. We didn't get exempted, but then we got it cut off because we were wrapped up with Antelope Valley and we worked through that, so we're not subject to that. So this other thing I'm talking about, this 80% thing, just the Board of Supervisors just made it up. And it was added at the last minute to the sustainability plan, just before the draft came in. And there was nothing in the record explaining how they came up with this number. They just wrote it down at 80%, and now it's the target. And this water plan is supposed to be the path to get there. And it's frankly scary to a place like ours that's water challenged. So, I don't know what the word is.
Which request some water?
So I don't know what to do about it. It's like the sustainability plan says all this great equity outreach, procedural equity, and none of it is happening.
I've noticed this recurring theme with everything we're dealing with, which is they write it down that, hey, there has to be outreach, and everybody goes, yeah, we'll send them an email 3 days before the thing, and then...
Or after it's done.
Or after it's done.
Yeah.
And don't worry, we'll listen to your comments, we just can't include them in the thing.
Yeah, and he does say that they'll do outreach after the
Yeah,
plan is
that's
drafted,
right.
but it's like,
That's
it's
true.
2 days late then. They did that to us in the sustainability plan.
So I think, so we don't just kind of beat our heads under the floor like I want to right now. But do we think that crowing about it is going to make them change their path? If not, then we probably need to look at how can we get involved in the Irwin process to at least have a voice.
We have to get involved in the Irwin. The Irwin, but they've already finished the first round of meetings with Irwin, but he didn't commit to any more. So that shit might have already sailed. I participated in the Irwin meeting. Mary Johnson participated. Did you participate? Somebody else did too. At the time, I had no idea that it was
That's going to be...
Yeah, that was it. That was the chance. And it was just like, they had fixed questions you had to answer and pick from their answers. It's like, and then, but they did let you say, what other ideas do you have?
Yeah.
So nobody voted on those, but you just threw ideas out. And one of the things I said is, don't transfer water from one basin to another. And then as soon as I wrote that up, people were able to go thumbs up, and it got a lot of thumbs up, like, but it was like the last second, it was timed. And so it was just,
Yeah, well, you would have...
there was no discussion.
Well, that's what I say, or we would have come prepared, or we would have had a discussion and come up with a list of things, like, make sure this stuff gets on there, because we know this has got a lot of...
Oh, yeah, it was totally, you were like bushwhacked, and there was no discussion. There was no...
So who's, dumb question, who decides that there's going to be another Irwin meeting about this?
Well, yeah, Irwin will have a meeting, but I don't know if water plan will be on the agenda. Because Irwin is a big thing, so it's nothing to do with the water plan, they just piggybacked on it.
Okay, so who sets that agenda?
The gentleman who I'm emailing back and forth with, and so there's an email, you guys can all see it. I said to him, you know, sustainability plan says this, and I said it on page 17. You need to. How does what you're doing work with that?
So let's. I would entertain a motion that we formally write a request that it be put on the agenda as a stakeholder in the process.
As an Irwin agenda.
Yeah, 100%. Like that they need to
have
bring
a
back
discussion.
Yes, I think coming from from the town council and
So a motion that we ask water plan staff to have it on every upcoming Irwin agenda, because they only meet like every 2 months. And how often? Does anyone know how often Irwin meetings are? Is it every 2 months? Or is it every Irwin meetings?
Oh gosh, I used to go to those.
No. Do you know, Carlo?
No, I'm the same way.
It's not more often than once a
well,
month.
and I would implore them in order to try and honor the intent of how it was written with outreach, that this would be one way they
It's
could help.
beyond Irwin?
Yeah, well, I would encourage it that way, but say at the minimum you can at least open it up so that communities can be informed and have an understanding of the importance of the Irwin meetings have to this process. I mean, something along the lines of if this is a substitute, this isn't good.
This is a format.
But if this is what the format we're dealing with, then there needs to be more opportunities so that more people can participate in the process.
So the motion is to have the water plant staff.
She's ready to go.
Okay, I got it so far, because then you guys started talking.
Sorry.
We asked, water plan staff to have it on every other,
The water plan, the draft water plan
to have the draft water
on every Irwin agenda for,
Ad infinitum.
well, it's going to be till March because it's coming up then.
Yeah.
For community, for resident community input.
Yes, community input.
And, period.
I think-
And then also ask them to do more than just Irwin meetings. as required by the sustainability
Yes.
plan, which either
Yes.
means something or it doesn't.
Yes.
Is that good, Kelly? Second. Sorry.
Sorry, Kelly.
Does this response to MRCA, does it have to be a letter or just an email?
Digital letter.
And this one, just a.
Yeah. But I just think heavy. Something official, so it's.
Sometimes like to get hit by a cosmic ray when the actual letter to arrive.
I know, that's true.
It's a crap sheet.
Do you want to move that?
I'll move it.
All right, you have a second? All right, a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Tom did the second?
Oh, yeah, he did second.
Okay.
Sorry. Any other discussion? Aye. Aye?
Aye.
All right. Any no's? All right, motion's carried. All right. Redistricting, I put this on here, I know you said you don't bother, but
Yeah,
we can.
I think redistricting, that ship has sailed, they're gonna do whatever they want. They don't care about it.
Yeah, one of the crazy maps has with Santa Monica, I was like, wow, they'll have completed their takeover, just,
Well, I still don't think it's a problem to have more than one supervisor for Rainbow Valley. I mean, for a long time, our community was served by 2 different state senators, and that was very useful, because when we had problems at the high school, we had Sharon Runner and Cameron Smythe, I think, working together. And I remember Sharon giving a talk here saying, look, I'm trying to help you guys get the high school fixed. It's not even in my district. But her kids went to kids in her district. Yeah, so, I don't know, I'm not, but it doesn't really matter what we think.
No.
They're just, I don't know, Carlo, you've been participating, you said there's a meeting on Saturday, which we didn't even know.
There was a meeting early Saturday. I guess it was a telephone meeting. Of course, that's the day I had school, so I couldn't talk. But yeah, the redistricting goes at several levels. The maps are, when they're talking about the maps, they're talking about the main congressional, the state senatorial districts, the assembly districts. That's what they're talking about with the redistricting. What they don't tell you about is it also includes all the districts under them. So you had your chance to ask, hey, could we redistrict? There are 5, take for example the school board in Saugus. There's 5 members in it. You could have actually asked, they are going to just arbitrarily pick what, you're going to break up the population into 5. There's 10,000, people in that district, boom.
Really?
2,000, 2,000, 2,000, 2,000.
So it's not just supervisors?
It's not just, it's even the supervisor's districts. The lines are going to be changed a little. Even if she remains as our only supervisor, the lines will change. The population has changed.
Yeah.
So it's forcing everything. They've actually lost like 1 congressional seat. And they figured they're going to start taking into that in a county, downtown Los Angeles, and then move all the way up. Right now, the proposal that I saw, and I heard different things, I was able to comment like 3 months ago, and I was able to comment verbally the last week. But the proposals were to severely change the direction of the congressional district to get away from Ventura County.
Really? Okay, I didn't know that.
And then take away part of, and then push the congressional district, which is the 25th, push it all the way to the county line. And I mean to the county line.
So this was one of the conversations last week, one of the discussions? Because every time I've zoomed in,
Yeah, I know, they're just boring you out.
No, I listen to all of it. It's only about supervisors, but last Wednesday was ARTC, so I couldn't do that meeting. So
they're going through like different days of different levels, but at any one time you could have commented about the districts. And I think they're finally going to stop taking comments on Thursday.
Okay. Well, I just decided it was,
I know, it's very confusing.
And it's
I like it better when it was in person. And, with Madhouse, but
yeah.
In 2010, because it was in person, people made more sense. People would walk up and say, listen, why should I go? Because in 2000, from 2000 to 2010, my assemblyman, for Aguadulce, his office was in Camarillo.
Camarillo, really?
Camarillo, it's gerrymandered.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Horrifically gerrymandered district. And the rest of Los Angeles looked very much like this. And in somewhere around 2010, they tried to straighten out the world. And this time, in their efforts to straighten it out, now they got real problems because now you lost one senator, you lost one congressman, and then everybody's moving around. The populations are changing. There's more population in the AV, so it's different.
What bothered me was when one of the persons said, well, my goal is to have 2 Latino districts, 1 African district, 1 Asian district. And of course, the 5th one wasn't, because you're not, we don't do that. It's just like, I'm like.
Is this America? Yeah.
I heard that too. Around there, okay, only you can live there, only you can
Comment or whatever.
I
take a
think we
position.
still had a
Now's the time to do it.
Really ominous and it's starting to look pretty.
What's looking good?
This is my part.
Yeah. Anarchy. Anarchy's looking good. Yeah. He's joking.
Oh, no, there is. It's terrifying to comprehend. All right, councilmember comments. I think that's a good segue.
I'm good.
Jackie, you
I'm good, I'm too tired.
Actually, I have something to say.
Oh,
Yeah. So I saw Facebook a press release from our Sheriff Villanueva talking about the potential loss of sheriff personnel because of potential layoffs due to vaccination, non-vaccination mandates of all kinds. I'm just saying, please, Chuck, bring back to the supervisor that this is insane. Let's try to keep the people we need working and, let the stupid virus run its course, but we cannot lose our law enforcement. We have so little of it right now in this community, and with the pot growing and all this, if he loses 10, 15% of his staff due to forced, we're finished this community. We're going to be overrun, and it will be anarchy. So please bring that message back. Thank you.
no. All right, unfinished business.
Just a minute.
There's lots of unfinished business. That was,
Today was so topsy-turvy, I didn't really get to do the thinking I normally do.
no, it's okay.
We should probably also put on the agenda, we have the big meeting on the 3rd about drainage. So follow up on that.
Which direction do we circle in the northern hemisphere?
I don't remember which way the Coriolis force makes us go. Sorry. I know it's different from down under. Just watch your toilets. Well, I don't know.
Okay. On that note, we have our bell announcing we're adjourning at 9:20. Almost. You can try it.